the Board of Education will come to order at 6:06. Thank you for your patience. Clerk, report out of closed session, please.
Report out of closed session. The closed session began at 3:54 p.m. In the matter of case TC 16-16 and case number TC 16-7, both claims were rejected by the board. In case number 2015-2016-02, board gave direction to the superintendent, and the board voted unanimously to continue the discipline hearing. Closed session adjourned at 5:56.
Thank you very much. And at this time, I'd like to invite everyone to please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now, for members in attendance, I note that all members, including our student board member, are present and accounted for. Next up, so welcome to the public, Mr. Patapow.
Welcome to your monthly meeting of the Board of Education. On your request for your speaker cards, please be specific when you want to talk about something on your card. Please put the item, write it down. I don't think anybody likes surprises, but least of all us. Okay, thank you. Item C is placed on the agenda to enable members of our community to bring items that are not placed anywhere else on the agenda to the board's attention. If you would like to address the board on any agenda item, please complete a speaker slip. All requests to speak must be submitted to the executive assistant of the board before the agenda item comes up. That's Wendy all the way on the end down there in that heavy coat. If you are requesting an agenda item be pulled for public discussion from section E, consent calendar, speaker slip must be submitted to the executive assistant now, as approval of the consent calendar is one of the first items up for approval. The board is responsible for setting policy and direction for the students of Poway Unified School District. It is important to the community that civility and good role modeling be a very real part of our meetings. Students are always present at board meetings, and our meetings are live streamed via the internet, and recorded copies are posted on the PowayUSD website. Speaking time is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, with a maximum of 15 minutes per side of each topic, unless waived by the board president. There will be a 30-second warning when time is running out. You see these little lights up on top here. The green will start, and then when it's yellow, you'll have so much time there, and then the red light blinks. You quickly summarize, or you lose the mic and you're just going to be sitting there, and it's embarrassing. There will be a 30-second warning when time is running out. Speakers may only speak on one topic under item C and may not defer their speaking time to another individual. Vulgarity and profanity will not be allowed. If you have a complaint or charge against a specific PowayUSD employee, it is recommended you submit a formal complaint as outlined in our board procedure 4.106.2. The final step in this process provides the board the ability to hear an appeal of the complaint if the board so chooses. If you are voicing a complaint against an employee, in order to protect the employee's right to adequate notice before a hearing of such complaint and to preserve the ability of the board to legally consider the complaint in any subsequent evaluation of the employee, it is the policy of the board to hear the complaint in closed session. If you have any written materials for the board to review that would provide more specific information, please submit them to Wendy, the executive assistant. The Brown Act does not permit board action or extended discussion of any item not on the agenda, but your concerns will be referred to staff. With that said, welcome and thank you for coming.
Agenda item A6 is the approval of minutes. We have two different meetings up for approval tonight. Then first we'll go with the December 15th regular board meeting. Are there any revisions? Seeing none, I'd ask for a motion. Motion by Mr. Patapow, second by Ms. Beatty to approve the December 15th revised minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that they are adopted, 5-0. The second set is on the very last page, one page on the back. The special board meeting of January 10th. Are there any changes?
Move to approve.
On a motion by Mr. Zane, second by Mr. Patapow. Any discussion here? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes for January 10th as written?
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions? Sorry, I should say opposed first. And abstentions? 2. So the vote is 3 aye. Ms. Beatty and Mr. Sellers abstain. Next, A7, our approval of our consent calendar. Action on these items can be taken by a single motion of the board, allowing time for discussion on other routine items. I'm going to go through each board member and ask if anyone would like to remove anything from our consent calendar. I'll start with Mr. Boujar.
No, thank you.
Mr. Sellers.
I'd like to pull item E303, please.
302.
And nothing for me. So with the exception of items E302 and E303, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so the agenda consent calendar passes, and I'd like to take a moment to reorder those 2 items. Bear with me for a moment. Okay, thank you for your patience. And the final preliminary item, A8, approval of the agenda sequence. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
On a motion by Mr. Zane, second by Mr. Patapow. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. On to our reports and presentations, and we have our student board representative reports. First up here, I would like to call Ethan Choi from Del Norte High School. You're up first.
Report to the school board this evening. Here's what's happening in the nest at Del Norte. For college readiness, this past month we celebrated 55 seniors at DNHS who started as freshmen taking algebra and are now taking AP Calc or AP Stats. This is the 3rd year in a row we've had 50 to 60 seniors accomplish this. We recognize the students' perseverance and the wonderful math teachers who supported their journey and success. 7 students from this group will be selected as math ambassadors in the next month or so and will be given the opportunity to share their math stories with current 8th and 9th graders who struggle in math. Our counselors have also been hard at work hosting and directing workshops for juniors and their parents on topics such as college and financial aid. The DN counselors do a great job disseminating timely and helpful information to students and parents. One of our proud alumni, Rosa C., who is pursuing her passion for art at Yale, came back to the nest to meet with students who are interested in attending Ivy League schools. Rosa was excited to share her perspective with students and express thanks for how well prepared she was for Yale coming from Del Norte. We are always impressed to see our students learning from each other in AVID tutorials. This last Friday, a non-student day, several AVID students were asked to come to school to model for our teachers AVID questioning and note-taking strategies. It was a role reversal, students teaching the teachers. Future focus-wise, our choir serenaded our staff this past holiday season with several holiday songs. They also led the staff in singing of our newly released alma mater written by Mr. Ed Giles. Best Buddies enjoyed a great night out at RB watching the Nighthawks play the Broncos. A field day event is planned for later this month and will be supported by both basketball programs RB and DNHS. On January 6th, several alumni returned to Del Norte to speak at an assembly during 5th period. They shared stories and advice about all aspects of life after high school, drawing upon their experiences attending junior colleges, CSUs, UCs, private and out-of-state colleges, and military schools. It was very informative. Both varsity and JV girls basketball hosted Valley Center in the Nest on January 6th, and with our band's amazing support, Our Lady Nighthawks pulled out a victory over Valley Center. On January 8th, our Del Norte ambassadors continued their neighborhood school visits, stopping by Del Sur Elementary School. Globally Aware, one of our clubs, Together We Stand, met and discussed mental health stigmas and addressed student anxiety topics. They plan to continue their effort with counselors and student services. Other clubs also aimed at supporting an inclusive school culture are also active on campus. The Gender Equality Club, GSA, and the Black Student Union, to name just a few, are planning campaigns and activities on campus to increase student awareness and sensitivity. Finally, last week, the Nest hosted over 20 students from Australia who shadowed Nighthawks in an exchange program. As always, it's a great day to be a Nighthawk.
Thank you very much, and please let whoever who comes next month for us, I want to hear the alma mater performed. Thanks. Okay. From Rancho Bernardo High School, Sahar Salehi.
Hello all, my name is Sahar Salahi from Rancho Bernardo High School, and I am a sophomore and one of the VPs of activities, along with my partner Jalen Rasul, who unfortunately could not be here tonight. I'm going to get started with some things that we are proud of on campus. First off, second semester started off today smooth, and our new ASB leadership is in place. Last week, ASB paid for a large RB logo to be painted in the small quad, which looks great and gives some much needed color to the quad. We are extremely proud of our football team who won the Division 3A state championships, which is the first state championship for any RB sport. Yay. Go Blue. We are also proud of something new we tried called Winter Wishes. We received many requests prior to the break and were able to grant most of them. One example was that our Best Buddies program asked for a pizza party, which we were able to provide for them. Here are some things that we are excited about on campus. Seniors started receiving acceptance letters back from colleges, and we have Grad Fest this Thursday night, where parents and students can get everything they need for graduation and the end of the year. We are also looking on having RBHS ice skating night at the new skate center in Poway on January 23rd, so everybody should come out. We are also looking forward to having Brent King, Chelsea King's father, who is coming to speak to our students on Friday, where he will be encouraging students to sign up for this year's Chelsea's Run. Things that we are working on campus. Winter sports are starting league play this week with boys and girls basketball and boys and girls soccer playing Westview tonight. Based on the success of our homecoming dance, we are planning a winter informal dance on January 30th in our gym. The theme is Space Jam, and it should be just as successful and fun as our Welcome Back dance. We are also getting ready for our No Place for Hate week, which is in the second week of February. We are starting this tradition since last year and are looking forward on building on what we did. One of our main events that week is the Human Relation Conference, or HRC, where the sophomore class comes together to learn about each other and break down the walls that can separate high school students. Thank you for allowing me to represent RB and all the great things about being a Bronco.
And that leaves Ella Smith from Westview High School.
Happy New Year. Happy new semester. Good evening. My name is Ella Smith, Westview's Happy New ASB President. It's an honor to report to you for the next year on Wolverine life at Westview High School. With this new year come new experiences, a new semester, a new ASB, and many more new milestones that we're eager to embark upon. The amazing leadership of our PTSA is always busy with something for our students. For example, tomorrow morning is our student staff recognition ceremony. Students recognize dozens of staff members on our campus, and staff recognize over 150 students, all of which have been invited for a breakfast ceremony. Additionally, a few years ago, Westview PTSA introduced Career Connections to do just that, connect students to careers. Last week, dozens of students gathered in our staff lounge to meet professionals and hear from a panel of energy and environmental science industries. In about 2 weeks, we'll meet and greet professionals from the medical fields. Last week, while students stayed home and recuperated from the aftermath of finals, teachers came to school for their professional growth day as students. That morning, each teacher was handed an academic schedule with 4 classes, with courses such as physics and AP statistics, which they reported to. Instead of long, draining professional growth meetings, Westview administration took a forward-thinking approach to let teachers firsthand experience a few hours in the life of a Westview student. Our winter sports season is coming to a close. In addition to their stellar academic performances, our athletes continue to set stellar athletic records. Our girls water polo ranks 6th in the county, girls basketball ranks 5th, and our boys soccer team champions in the North County tournament. Some of our athletes have exciting playoffs and tournaments ahead, namely our wrestlers, of which 13 are females. They will be hosting the CIF championships next month. As for our activities, ASB was committed to bringing back a winter informal dance, especially after last year's massive success. We had all the logistics finalized: DJ in the gym, Belgian waffles, unlimited hot chocolate, and even ice skating in our quad. Yes, ice skating. However, after a week of ticket sales and promotion, the sentiment on campus wasn't quite what we expected. Our students wanted a formal. Yes, ice skating would have been innovative, but we decided that it's more important to listen and value student voice. So our ASB executive team dropped everything: the plans for our informal and our plans to spend the weekend studying for our upcoming finals. In the span of 48 hours, we rerouted everything and organized Winter Lights, a winter formal at the La Costa Omni Resort to be held on February 6th. And that's just a snippet of what's happening at Westview. As always, we're bustling with energy and momentum and are well aware that these days mark the halfway mark of the school year. We're working hard and determined to make this school year a memorable one. Thank you for your time this evening, and I look forward to sharing the amazing achievements of Westview students and programs in the coming months.
And it appears to be a very busy night for our students. Just double checking Abraxas, Mount Carmel, or Poway High School out there anywhere? No? All right, thank you very much. And as always, if you need to get home and do homework, study for those finals you skipped to plan the dance, you're welcome to go. Thank you very much. B2A is our superintendent's briefing. Dr. Collins.
Thank you, Madam President. A few recognitions that I think we need to take a moment for. Pomerado Elementary School has actually received 2 recognitions. That I think should be highlighted. The Otter Cares philanthropy program, along with Otter Products San Diego Division, recently donated 40 Amazon Fire e-readers to Pomerado Elementary School. The e-readers will be used in the school's library. Pomerado Elementary also received $5,000 from the Barona Education Grant Program to support their after-school activities program. And in a few minutes, we'll be honoring another of our elementary schools for a very special achievement. On the district updates, I wanted to talk for a moment about I want to update the board, and well, the board's been updated. I want to update the public on our district's response to the tornado watch and warning that was issued by the National Weather Service on Wednesday, January 6th. The tornado warning took effect at 2:54 p.m. and was expected to last until 3:45 p.m. According to the National Weather Service, however, they canceled the warning shortly after 3:15 p.m. A severe weather alert remained in place until 3:45. We discovered several important details during this event, including the fact that the National Weather Service broadcast current information during the tornado watch and warning, while local television news and other sources, which our parents were watching and listening to for updates, were behind in their reporting. And so there were confusing mixed messages about whether the warning had been released or when. That made for some confusion and some questioning of our decisions to release students or to shelter them in place. I want to assure everyone that our district's decisions were consistent with the National Weather Service information and recommendations. During this event, we communicated information to our parents through our Connect 5 to the parents of the affected schools with classes and after-school programs still in session. And 2 updates were posted on our district's website. So, in my 20-some years in this district, I never thought we would have to deal with a tornado watch within San Diego County, but obviously we did. So, we've already taken some steps underway. And the El Nino, by the way, is not gone. We're just waiting for the next hit. I'll be seeking best practices from our colleagues across the country and our Western States benchmarking group. They have tornadoes and tornado watches and tornado warnings all the time. So we're going to rely on our colleagues across the country to help inform our best practice. Student support services will update all of our school site safety handbooks with severe weather warning protocols, including tornado watches. The Emergency Operations Center Committee, under the leadership of Associate Superintendent Thalande, has prepared a detailed report for the board, which was sent to you last Friday. Our Information Technology Department will be now activating our new district app, which will provide us with another means of emergency communication with our staff and families, where we'll be able to push out information to those who have signed up for the app for either the district or for your student school. And with all of that said, I also want to take a moment to give a commendation to our Maintenance and Operations Department. They were working ahead of time to be as prepared as possible for the El Nino. They were cleaning gutters and storm drains and getting everything in place. And until that first rain hits, that's when you find where the leaks are. And so they were fast to respond to those, and they deserve special recognition for the work that they did during that event. A new item. As you know, February is Black History Month. Last year at this time, we had 2 speakers address the board asking to be updated on our plans to honor and celebrate this important month-long event. Tonight, I want to give you some information. At the district level, we have posted a link on our district webpage entitled Make It a Day On, which provides families and community members information on way to learn more about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Black history. We will also be updating our district scroll each week in February with pictures, quotations, and links to information. Last year, after we heard from our speakers in February, members of our Learning Support Services visited school sites to observe Black History Month instruction and activities. There was a lot going on around our district, everywhere from our transitional kindergarten classrooms to the advanced placement U.S. history and government classes. Our new Director of Communications and Community Engagement will be posting tweets about many of these school activities throughout the month of February. And speaking of our new Director of Communication, Christine Peck has just finished her first work of day here in our district. Christine, will you stand while I introduce you to the audience? Christine is a 15-year veteran news anchor and reporter. She joins us from Fresno, California, where she worked for television station ABC 30, anchoring the midday and the 4 p.m. news. Christine attended the University of Cal Berkeley, where she graduated with honors in mass communication. She earned her master's degree in communication and journalism, with a perfect 4.0, I might add, from California State University, Fresno. Christine now lives here in our district with her husband and their 2 children, who have also, the 2 kids began their careers today as well in PUSD as a 1st and a 4th grade student. Please join me in welcoming Christine Pack. I also want to draw your attention to the revised green sheet and certificate of personnel report E207. This was just approved by the board, and we have listed the names of 2 new elementary principals for our district that were ratified. Mandy Bedard at Tierra Bonita and Denise Davis at Painted Rock Elementary School. Both are coming from other districts. Mandy was an employee here, but she's in a different one now, and Denise is in a different district, has never worked for Poway. They're in the process of transitioning from their current district, so it'll take a little time, and they'll both be starting in February. We hope to have both of them here at the March meeting so that you can meet them in person. And finally, I would like to invite you and members of the audience to a very special concert that's being held this Thursday, January 21st at 7 o'clock at Mount Carmel High School. The advanced choirs from all 5 of our comprehensive high schools, accompanied by 50 musicians from the Westview Orchestra, will perform Gabriel Fauré's Requiem, sung entirely in Latin. The students will be conducted by Dr. Patrick Walders, the Director of Choral Activities at San Diego State University. You know, throughout the year, our choirs compete with each other in musical festivals, but this concert is going to give them the unique opportunity to raise their voices together, and I believe it'll be a wonderful event. And that's my report for this meeting, except that one last recognition I told you about. And Madam President, if you'll join me out front here, Dr. Robertson, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Collins. So tonight we have the distinct honor of honoring Deer Canyon. So Deer Canyon Principal Terry Worthington, along with 3rd grade teacher Debbie Dye, and K1 multi-age teacher Gail Graves, join us up here up front. Tonight we recognize the outstanding educators, along with the staff, students, and families of Deer Canyon Elementary for Deer Canyon's designation as a 2015 exemplary, high-performing National Blue Ribbon School. According to the U.S. Department of Education, schools that earn the exemplary high-performing designation are among the state's highest-performing schools as measured by state assessments and nationally normed tests, and their student subgroups perform at the highest levels also. In their application to the Department of Education, Deer Canyon provided numerous examples of their school's mission. Quote, through personalized learning, we empower every child to acquire in-depth knowledge, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills to become college and career-ready 21st century citizens. I think you will agree that this is an outstanding mission, an outstanding school deserving of national recognition. And what I'd like to do is, I know there are Deer Canyon teachers here. If you could all stand also where you're at, just to be recognized, and recognize this whole school. It's our pleasure to give you the plaque, and again, one more time, please join me in honoring this outstanding school.
Although I was unable to join them in Washington this year, over the years it's been my pleasure and an honor to go back to Washington, D.C., as several of our schools have been recognized as national Blue Ribbon schools. And this is certainly well-deserved for Deer Canyon. And that, Madam President, is my report.
Thank you very much. And we do have one early agenda item before we move on to our board member reports. B4 is the initial proposal for contract negotiations from Poway School Employees Association. Associate Superintendent Hogarth.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight, please accept the Poway School Employee Association initial proposal for contract negotiations. You will see that you've been provided an updated version. An addition of Article 4 payroll deductions was received today from PSEA, actually received early this evening, so we've provided you an edited copy. The Board of Education need only to receive the proposal, and there's no need for further presentation at a subsequent meeting.
Thank you very much. And with that, we move to board member reports. We'll start down at the end with Mr. Pujar.
Good evening, everyone. Is my microphone on? Okay. Happy 2016. I'm overjoyed to share that my college applications are finally done. It's so wonderful to say that. Our high school seniors have been working very hard recently, balancing their academic load with extracurriculars, family, and now college applications. I would like to extend a thank you to our PUSD counselors, teachers, and parent community for guiding us and supporting us through our educational journey, sometimes spending many sleepless nights to do so. Thank you for your hard work and dedication. During the past few weeks, I met with Dr. Robertson, Ms. Delandi, and Ms. Hogarth to understand their visions for the future of PUSD. I must say that these individuals have some of the coolest jobs in the world. Thank you so much for meeting with me, and thank you for answering all of my questions. You are amazing. I would also like to thank our student and parent community for emailing me their ideas, dreams, and thoughts. Our students have some wonderful ideas, and I look forward to meeting with our district leadership to discuss more. In the meantime, please keep the feedback coming by emailing me at npujar@powayusd.com. You can also find my email online, and I would love to hear from you. Thank you. As we look forward to the new year, we have many decisions to make. We all have visions, plans, and dreams for the future, and I am confident that we can and will come together to keep moving forward. We are here for our kids, and our kids are always learning from us and watching from us. Let us all remember to be respectful, be responsible, and be positive role models, because the future is a place we all create. Thank you, and here's to a wonderful 2016.
I just have a couple of items I wanted to mention in my comments. The first is I want to congratulate my son Kelby on his 18th birthday today. Best of luck, and right when you find work. The second item is a little less humorous, but I'm going to address it now because I don't want it to interrupt the flow of board business when it comes to the docket. I'm going to explain the reasons why I've chosen not to support item D201, which is the ratification of the Poway Federation of Teachers tentative agreement. I have a couple of distinct problems with this that lead me to go this route. The first is that the compensation adjustment being put on the salary schedule is 4%, which is more than the other two unions took. The other two unions accepted pay raises of approximately 3%. So I found this a little disconcerting. The other, and perhaps even larger reason, is because there was an alternate board proposal to PFT that would have taken that 1%, which is actually a little under 1.4 million. We would have actually have sweetened that slightly and made it 1.5 million. And instead of giving a 4% raise, we'd have given a 3% raise, as I said, comparable to the other two bargaining units. And we'd have taken that 1.5 million and we'd have done two things with it. We would have taken $500,000 of it and put it toward coaching stipends, which is currently an issue of concern in the district that we are eventually going to have to ante up for. And we wanted to start making a down payment on that. And so we were going to apply $500,000 this year to that coaching stipend. The other $1 million we were going to put towards something called the elementary wheel. The elementary wheel is scheduled under the current proposal to receive $1 million next year. We were going to accelerate the implementation of that by 100% and put $2 million toward the elementary wheel. The reason I think these would have been better ways to go is because I think they help our kids. Now, everyone deserves to be paid more, including teachers, especially teachers, but the $1.5 million towards stipends and the hiring of art, PE, and music teachers is a much more direct benefit to our kids. It also helps our teachers out because the whole purpose of the elementary wheel is to provide collaborative time for them to work with each other and to work on lesson planning and other things. And so I felt that the board really came up with a good idea here, and that would have been a much better way to go when we presented that as an alternative to PFT, and it was not accepted. And I don't blame the teachers. I don't blame the union. I am disappointed in union leadership for not more actively pursuing this alternative approach and doing a more thorough presentation of it to their union membership. I think the teachers, had they been given an opportunity to completely participate in that, may have chosen the alternative approach that the board favored. But because that wasn't done, I cannot support the tentative agreement as it's currently written. Thank you.
Hello and welcome. I got to enjoy that fantastic football game at Rancho Bernardo High School over the holidays, and that was something to watch. Some great football, some great running and passes, so that was a real honor to be present for that historic event. And I look forward this Sunday to the 3rd annual Rancho Bernardo High School Friends of the Library 5K at Rancho Bernardo Community Park. This was the brainchild of my dear friend Richard Mason. So I look forward to running that with my husband. Each month for my board report, I'd like to just touch briefly on issues pertaining to the students that are close to my heart. And so I wanted to just briefly mention two this evening, and one is that a bill was introduced in the California State Legislature just this last week to restore mental health funding in elementary school. And this was introduced by a Bay Area lawmaker, and this would provide school-based programs to help children up to 3rd grade. This program was cut many years ago, but several years ago, our district created a crowdsourcing platform called Innovation U, where some of the best, most popular ideas would percolate to the top. And in the very first one to percolate to the top was a plan to fund, once again, counseling services in the elementary schools, and we appropriated over $1 million in order to do this. And this was just to get a minimum of 1 counselor a week in the elementary schools. Now, at the time, so clearly we had to take this funding from our general budget, and the recognition was that our children, they have stress-related crises, mental health issues at all grades, but we had to prioritize because of the restricted funding. And so the consensus was that it was really key that we address this issue in the earlier grades. So I am hopeful that if this bill does come to fruition, that we will be able to then reallocate some of the additional resources towards our middle and high school programs in mental health. When this funding was cut, the state reported that 80% of children who received the services for early mental health initiative had improved their behavior in both the playground and in the classroom. And at the time that it was cut, it was at the state level a $15 million appropriation, so it wasn't large. And the second item relates to this issue, and That is that I received a letter from a middle school student in our school district over the holiday break lamenting the early start time of his middle school. And he cites some important health-related statistics from the National Sleep Foundation that students, teenagers between the ages of 14 and 17 require 9.5 hours of sleep. And yet studies show that only 15% of students get even 8.5 hours of sleep on a regular basis, and this affects everything from paying attention in class to falling asleep while driving. And then he goes on to state that the answer is not going to bed earlier in order to attain the optimal amount of sleep, because research has shown that teenagers encounter what is called a sleep phase delay, which means that they have a natural biological tendency to both fall asleep and to wake up later. So this student is asking for us to consider a later start date, and I approve of this request. And with that, concludes my board report. Thank you.
You're going to get a lot more requests when people find out you're approving more sleep time for the kids. They'll all agree to it. I had a couple interesting things happen this over the holidays. I went to Abraxas graduation. I don't know how many people know this, but when they have an Abraxas graduation, I'm kind of inclined to support Abraxas a little more than average, because I started the school and I was principal there for 28 years. Before I became a board member for the last 20. But anyway, each student, when they graduate, the teacher says a little bit about each one. And it's amazing, the 25, 35 kids that were there, most all of them, I mean, they're going in all different directions, but they found a renewed energy at Abraxas, and they're ready to go. And you can check out their, quote, the old tennis court that was initially put in that no one wanted to do, and no one knew what to do with to begin with. They found a creative outlet for that, and they're going to create a vegetable garden, which they've got started out there, and you can go by it and you'll see it. I see Stacy here smiling because she was one of the original teachers I hired at Abraxas. But anyway, it was very rewarding to see the kids graduate. The other thing was the Healthcare Advisory Council meeting that's sponsored by Palomar. I represent the board in that respect. And instead of going to Escondido for emergency care, those people that can't afford emergency care, in Poway, there on Poway Road where the old Wendy's was, where I don't know if too many people know about it, where it burned down, they're going to rebuild that into an emergency care center. They're almost, let's see, they're 2/3 of the way through the financing, collecting the money to do it. From my understanding, they're going to start construction sometime next year. So instead of going to Escondido, our people in Poway and Lost Penn RB can come to the emergency care center here in Poway. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. For what it's worth, Kimberly, actually, I agree with you. I'm on board. I was one of those that had problems in the morning. I'm still this today. I don't subscribe to the early bird gets the worm. I subscribe to the nocturnal animals get the meaty little animals. Right? That's it's more substantive. First of all, Happy New Year to everyone, and a belated Happy MLK Day to everyone as well. It's only a day past. My wife and I did use the opportunity at home yesterday to teach our 12-year-old about the fight for civil rights and equality. I hope you did the same, took advantage of the day off with your kids. And then I just want to add, and this was in spite of being on antihistamines. I was fighting a cold all weekend. But last week I had a great pleasure to tour a couple schools. And I want to tell you why this is important to me, because over the past year, I kind of feel like I haven't been in a position where we've been moving the ball a lot. We've been doing a lot with bargaining unit negotiations, dealing with complaints, dealing with litigation, dealing with administrative items, and so you start to lose focus after 30-something meetings in the course of a year, what it's all about. And I really appreciate the time that I got to spend with the principal of Meadowbrook, Dr. Miguel Carrillo, and the principal of Shoal Creek, Mark Atkins, for providing an opportunity to remind me what it's all about. And it's exciting to see the kids doing their work, the teachers teaching them, and thank you for everything you do.
My board member report hits on some of the similar notes that Mr. Zane just shared, but I've been invited to Mesa Verde Middle School twice in this past month. I want to just share a little bit about that. The first time it was to be interviewed and videotaped by a group of 8th graders in Ms. Kango's class. Students came up with the topic, which was standardized testing, got me in the hot seat and started firing off questions in front of a camera. It was a lot of fun. I was sweating it a little bit, but I was very, very impressed with their work. They're going to take that video and get on computers and do their editing work, and I'm going to get to see it eventually, I think. But before I left, Principal Mitchell over there invited me to turn the tables on them and quiz them for a few minutes on their upcoming constitutional challenge. I teach constitutional law at the college level for, well, at least a unit in constitutional law, so I'm not really sure that all of those students could match the answers that these 8th graders had right off the top of their heads. It was pretty amazing. Earlier today, I was back at Mesa Verde again, invited by 8th grade teacher, Mr. Strachan, who I think is in the room somewhere, to watch that constitutional challenge. This is the Super Bowl of the constitutional challenge for them, the finals. This is kind of a high-stakes Jeopardy sort of game, exhibition of their exceptional knowledge about the Constitution. It was a great game, and I can report now that Mrs. Hansen's AM section won it all. It was a big deal. Very exciting. I've had a bunch of other meetings this month that I thought about sharing with you, but they just don't seem all that interesting when compared to the work that our students are doing. So I want to share a little bit more about that. So here I go. Mr. Blankman's 7th grade language arts students at Twin Peaks Middle School have been learning to write informative expository essays. This is clearly not an easy language since it involves writing multi-paragraph essays. They're expected to pull together a lot of knowledge, a lot of skills. He shared with me that they took some notes, they prepared an outline, they used their Chromebooks and Google Docs to start writing their essays. And in fact, one of my favorite things here, Mr. Blankman shared an 18-second video that he entitled "The Sound of 33 7th Graders Writing Essays." It's the camera on him, silence. They're clearly very engaged. I just loved it. Our younger students in the elementary level are benefiting from some classroom technology too. Mrs. Underhill is a teacher at Monterey Ridge Elementary. She and I grew up together and actually attended Sunset Hills and Black Mountain together just a couple years ago. She's a teacher here now in the district, and I love stories like this. And she shared with me that she's super pleased with all of the technology that her students are learning in 3rd grade there. Her classes were working hard on their iPads and their laptops, and she is really, really grateful for the help that they received from their school's foundation to purchase all of those. Students at Park Village Elementary, they've been working on their iPads too. 5th grade teacher Ms. Marker raved about what a blessing it is to teach there with the best students, the best parents, and the most amazing peers. I told her she probably has a run for her money at some of the other campuses, but I'm not going to argue. She shared that her class just finished up their MAPS testing on their iPads, and almost all of those students saw their scores rise dramatically. And I know with Ms. Marker at the home, they're going to be able to continue setting goals for themselves and keep improving, so well done for them. I've got a couple more schools I'm going to keep sharing here. Ms. Rodler Kramer's class at Oak Valley Elementary School, they've been soaking up lessons on reading strategies for difficult nonfiction texts. This is Common Core based, and she shared with me, don't think of Common Core as a bad word. Her students are excited about taking on this challenging kind of reading, in part because rather than accepting the old standbys when they ask, how was it? What'd you think? Oh, it was boring. It was confusing. She shared that in her class now, they've given each other permission, really, to ask for clarification or definitions when things don't make sense, and that it's really been elevating their discussions. And she says it's working. And students aren't the only ones learning. Lynn Hammond is an elementary teacher on special assignment who teaches teachers how to teach. She loves that her teachers that she sees are so eager to learn and take that learning back to their classroom. And to quote her, Poway teachers rock. They are my students now, and there is so much learning going on. I get the same thrill as teaching the kids. It's just a different classroom. And I love that. Thank you, teachers, for being there too. And finally, I swear this is the last one. Yesterday, I posted on my Facebook page 4 essays that were written by Ms. Becker's first graders at Midland Elementary. They have been studying Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as well as the differences between facts and opinions. This is a big deal for first graders. They're figuring this stuff out. But in pairing those lessons, she sent me 4 of these fantastic essays. It got her students thinking about how it was ever possible in our history for a person to judge another person based solely on the color of their skin. And as a class now, they're focusing on ways they can be kind to one another every day. So great lessons on the heels of yesterday's holiday. This is a long report, but these stories are showcasing the amazing things that our district students, our teachers, our parents, our other staff members are doing. And I wanted to share them tonight because I hope that they will help keep us all focused on the positives and inspire us to try to be the leaders that help our district to do the same. So thanks very much. And now we get to agenda item C, which is our public comment period. So before we start, and I'm going to tell you right now, we actually ran out of speaker cards. We have a couple handwritten note pages here, so bear with us here. I want to just, let me see, how many do we have? Are we ready to go? Okay. Let's go with then. I just want to really quickly review a couple procedures. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes, at which time your microphone's going to turn off automatically. We allow a maximum of 5 speakers per side per item. Everyone's got to turn in a speaker slip with your topic. Slips that do not have a topic will not be called. You don't have to give your contact information unless you want someone to get back to you. And if your topic appears on tonight's agenda, you will be called to speak when that agenda item comes up, not under item C. This is only for things that don't appear elsewhere on the agenda. So with that, I'll turn it over to Clerk Patapow.
Okay, our first area of conversation will be we have 4 people who want to address the topic dyslexia. Our first speaker in this area is Stacy Cavagnolari. Excuse me if I don't pronounce your name correct, but I give it a shot. Is that correct? Close enough. Close enough? Okay.
Good evening, Superintendent Collins and member of the school board. I'm happy to be back here tonight to talk about dyslexia. I was thrilled to hear Kimberly Renz at the last school board meeting report on the district's actions and willingness to investigate what our dyslexic students need. I want to publicly thank Kimberly for personally reaching out and calling the parents who have come and spoken at the school board. Kimberly has shown herself to truly care about the kids and wants to learn as much as she can. We felt heard and validated. As we move forward, I'm very excited to see the district make positive changes. I also want to thank principal at Chaparral Elementary School for inviting Rachel Herman into her school last Friday to give a dyslexia simulation to 75 school psychologists and teachers. I would appreciate to hear feedback that you have received from the teachers and psychologists who participated. There is no doubt that this was an incredible learning experience for all. As I sit here tonight and I look at each one of you, I know that I am proud to be a part of this school district. You have heard us, you have reached out to us, and taken action on the dyslexia issue, and for that I am proud. I want you to all know that I have received several emails from across the country asking me, how have we gotten our school board to listen to us? If you hear nothing else tonight, please remember this. People are looking towards Poway Unified. They are looking very closely at our district and how we are responding to the dyslexia issue. Lastly, I want to finish up with some exciting news. The story of decoding dyslexia in AB 1369 and dyslexia in our public schools has been picked up by a renowned Northern California reporter with ABC7, Cheryl Jennings. This will be a 30-minute segment on her program titled Beyond the Headlines. This program features fellow dyslexic and our Lieutenant Governor, Gavin Newsom, Dr. Sally Shaywitz of the Yale Center for Creativity and Dyslexia and Creativity, along with Dr. Fumiko Hoff with Sadler Neuroscience Dyslexia Center. As you can imagine, we are excited for this program to air. I will leave you with a quote by Dr. Shaywitz. "Ignoring and standing by watching the destruction of so many lives is a civil rights movement of our times."
Thank you. Our next speaker on this topic is Michelle Perry.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Perry, and I would like to start by saying that I was very pleased to hear that educators and school psychologists were able to experience the dyslexia simulation provided by Rachel Herman. Dyslexia simulations are a very valuable tool with many benefits. I'm confident that this information will make a positive impact within the Poway School District. Thank you for your support. Adults and students alike can benefit tremendously from dyslexia awareness. We are fortunate to have a strong community with wonderful people who go above and beyond. I found the implementation of ability awareness by a special education teacher at Adobe Bluffs truly inspirational. This was my first year volunteering at the ability awareness event, but definitely not my last. I had the privilege of witnessing how incredibly engaged and receptive all of the students were in learning about individuals with many types of learning differences. As a guide leader, I was able to listen to most of the presenters. One of those presenters was Devin Hughes. He's a speaker, a coach, and an author with dyslexia. He delivered a powerful message of hope. I watched as children looked intently as he spoke, and I knew that wonderful things would manifest through this shared experience. Imagine how wonderful it would be to have ability awareness at all of our elementary schools here in Poway. This program would benefit all students. Devin Hughes stated, "Keep in mind, life has not been easy, but a dyslexic child does not want easy, just possible. I'm a survivor. Life has come full circle for me. At one point, I could not stand to read or write, and now I earn a living doing both." What a powerful message. As someone who advocates for dyslexia awareness, I'm incredibly grateful for the special education teacher for bringing this program to the students at Adobe Bluffs. I support any program that empowers our students and builds empathy. I hope to see ability awareness at all of our elementary schools and more dyslexia awareness for students and educators. Thank you.
Just very quickly, thank you so much for bringing that up. I talked about it briefly at our January meeting. I've been involved with ability awareness at Adobe Bluffs for 4 out of the last 6 years, and it is an amazing program. I hope everybody gets a chance, everyone up here too, gets a chance to get there maybe next year. Thanks for bringing it up, though. She is an amazing teacher, and it'd be great for the whole district.
Our next speaker is Tracy Block-Zareski.
Hello. I would also like to thank those in PUSD that have taken steps towards getting more information about dyslexia in our new law. I know you may have been doing some research on your own or have heard from some of our parents about good remediation options for students with reading and writing disabilities, including dyslexia. It can be confusing to weed through it all. We all know. There's still, the snake oil salesman still exists. I would like to share a little bit about what I know about the appropriate remediations for dyslexia. Structured literacy is a term you may have heard. It's a relatively new term, and it's designed to describe the various programs, approaches, and methodologies that incorporate the essential elements to help students with print-based disabilities, such as dyslexia, learn to read and write. Because one size does not fit all, there are different approaches such as Orton-Gillingham, Slingerland, and structured word inquiry. There are also programs based on these approaches. You may have heard of some of these that are based on the Orton-Gillingham approach, such as Barton or Wilson, just to name a few. The elements that that all these programs and approaches have in common are that they are explicit, systematic, structured, and multisensory. The explicit part means that the student is being explicitly taught each and every rule and the construct of words. They are explicitly taught the underlying structures of words, the how and why our words are spelled the way they are spelled. The structure may be based on syllable types or on morphemes. The Orton-Gillingham approach and the programs based on it will explicitly teach the 7 syllable types, spelling rules, and exceptions in a structured, sequential, systematic, and multisensory approach. Structured word inquiry will teach the student of the structure of words based on morphology, etymology, and phonology. It is a linguistic approach. As you may know, linguistics is the scientific study of language, so when students use this approach, they also get the explicit explanation of the structure of our words that is also systematic, structured, and multisensory. Students learn there is a reason for the spelling of every word in the English language using structured word inquiry, and there are no exceptions for spelling using this approach. You may recall when I spoke at a previous meeting about why there is a G in the word sign and a W in the spelling of the number 2. Or you may not recall because you haven't had enough instruction time to retain what was said in 3 minutes, as our brains do not generally retain new information thrown at us so fast, especially if there's a learning disability. Students with reading and writing disabilities have the ability to learn and to read and spell if they are taught with the appropriate approach or programs by trained teachers who can implement the remediation with fidelity. It really shouldn't be called a learning disability, as it implies that they cannot learn to read and spell. It should really be called a learning difference. It is exciting to see some positive steps forward in PUSD, and people from other school districts are reaching out to find out from us what we are doing to help facilitate changes. PUSD can be a leader in this movement, and we would love to continue to help to facilitate these.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Janelle Robbins.
Good evening. My name is Janelle Robbins. I have an 11-year-old 6th grader who has been attending Poway Unified since kindergarten, and I'm here to share with you a success story about my son who was diagnosed early with dyslexia. This early diagnosis was the key in allowing us to find an effective, proven remediation program that kept him from slipping into the path that many children with dyslexia face: depression, drug use, dropping out, and unemployment. When he was 2.5, Camden was diagnosed with a severe delayed speech condition. Later, there were other problems with rhyming, recalling words, and a disinterest in reading. And though we didn't know it yet, these were the very first signs of a much larger problem, a reading and language disorder. In 1st grade, Camden wasn't reading at grade level or even progressing toward it. And despite extra supports put in place by his teachers, Camden hadn't made the progress expected. His teacher suggested he repeat 1st grade. We decided that repeating the grade would only result in Camden being taught by the same methods that had already failed him. We suspected that Camden's abilities weren't being reflected by his achievements, so we had him tested for a learning disability outside of the school district. When we learned that Camden had dyslexia, we felt worried, but also relieved. Now we could more effectively address Camden's needs. At the very beginning of 2nd grade, we informed the school of Camden's dyslexia diagnosis, but no additional help was offered. By the middle of 2nd grade, we became more desperate when Camden's MAP scores in reading and language fell to the 13th and the 5th percentile. It wasn't until we had an ADHD diagnosis that the school offered additional resources, but they could not offer any evidence-based programs for his dyslexia. So we took the initiative and sought out a private tutor who was trained to teach children with dyslexia. I believe it's the school district's responsibility to identify children with dyslexia and to provide a proven way to teach them. Camden worked with a dyslexia-trained tutor for 2 years using structured literacy. His ability to read improved tremendously, and his third grade teacher remarked that he had never seen any student increase their MAP scores as much as Camden had in such little time. Camden is now a thriving 6th grade middle school student. He received straight A's on his last report card, and his MAPs in reading and language scores have been as high as the 75th percentile. But just as important, he is a happy kid who likes going to school. He loves learning, and he is full of self-confidence. And I just urge that the Poway Unified School District make it a priority to train our educators in identifying students with dyslexia early, to implement structured literacy with effective evidence-based programs, and to train our teachers how to teach it. It is the only way that we can make a difference in the lives of our students who struggle with.
Next speaker is Dusty Toxtron.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come here and speak to you on dyslexia. Sorry to follow somebody that's so emotionally involved as myself that I'm a little emotional at the moment that I didn't expect to be. I am dyslexic along with my 2 sons. I only have one of my 3 that are not. My oldest son received an IEP for ADHD in 1st grade. I had the same similar problem. He could not get help for dyslexia. By 2nd grade, I realized that the help that he was getting from the school was not enough and that we needed to seek outside help. We found a dyslexic tutor and began tutoring. By 3rd grade, I noticed that these MAP scores for my child would decrease during the school year and increase during the summer. We were teaching him solely in the dyslexic program during the summer, and in the school year, they were using a non-proven dyslexic program, and his MAP scores decreased every time. I've worked with over a dozen teachers, 3 special education departments, and 3 different Poway Unified District schools, and not one teacher has known how to teach a dyslexic or has been trained in dyslexia. My youngest son attended a full year of pre-K and preschool, but after TK was not able to recognize the alphabet or the sounds. The special education person tested him to see if they could recognize any problems or dyslexia. They were not. I did take him to a specialist, and it was confirmed that he was dyslexic. A dyslexic child was provided to the special education teacher, and they were not able to recognize it because they do not have the tools or the programs that they need to help dyslexic children. His DK teacher is also the first reading recovery person in the afternoon at his school. She is the first level of defense for children with reading problems and dyslexics will meet. However, she has no training in dyslexia. She doesn't know how to recognize it. She doesn't have the tools, nor does she believe in it. I urge you, as the Poway Unified School District School, if your first level of educators, TK in special education, do not understand or have the tools to help dyslexic children, how do you know how many dyslexic children you have in your system? On average, 20% of children have dyslexia, but none of the people that I have met in this school system are able to help a dyslexic child. I urge you, it is critical in early education, very early, to be identified so that the brain pathways can be formed correctly. When they're formed incorrectly, it's almost impossible to reroute those brain pathways for learning to read. I challenge you, please, help these dyslexic children with your first level of educators, TK, 1st grade, kindergarten, and in special education. They need the proper tools. My son is an example of how the wrong tools will not help, but the right tools can. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Richard Mason. Heard that name before.
I'm Richard Mason from Rancho Bernardo High School, Friends of the Library. 14 days in December, but it brought 15,645 visits to the library. 100 this includes 110 classes in the library to learn research. And there was intensive use of the online databases, EBSCO and Gale, more than 4,500 searches on each of those. Book checkouts were 572. Interestingly, only 8 of those were ebooks. They haven't caught on, I guess. In November, there were no ebooks checked out. The most popular books checked out. The most popular fiction was Batman, No Man's Land, a novel by Greg Rucka. But the nonfiction was Batman Under the Hood by Judd Winnick. I don't know, it puzzles me why they classified that as nonfiction. Our principal, Dave Lemaster, has been a great help in using the budget standards to give us money for books. So we appreciate that very much. Library volunteers put in 67 hours in December. We also had the Friends of the Library hired a library assistant for 39 hours. Cost us $1,420. We did that to ease the strain on the teacher librarian. And if you would restore a library assistant, it would ease the strain on us fundraisers. And speaking of fundraisers, we want to invite you to join Mr. and Ms. Beatty and a walk or run on our third annual walk run on January 21st, and also to participate in our online auction.
I don't know how you did it, but you got the timer up here going the wrong way. Our next speaker is Nick Lombardo.
Nick Lombardo, Poway. In our last negotiations, which the negotiations before the 14-15 year, in negotiations we were asked, why did we want Me Too? And the statement was made, don't we always give you the highest raise anybody else gets? And trust us. Also in those negotiations, we asked that our normal reopeners were health, welfare, wages, 2 more articles, and anything else that's mutually agreed upon. We asked for health, welfare, wages, Article 19, which concerns transportation, and 2 other articles. We were told no, with the explanation of why would you want that in your contract? Don't we always give you other articles? Don't you trust us? Well, this year, we asked for a 5th article and we're told no. We also asked, or when we received our raise, so our question there is, when do we get the difference on our paycheck that the teachers just got? You asked us to trust you. We always do this. Now you don't do it. Classified people are 5% below the average. Teachers are above the average. We're told that we're all the same, but yet you guys created a bigger gap, okay? Trust, all I can say, guys, is don't ask me to do that again. Not until I'm shown that you guys can be trustworthy. Thank you.
Our next speaker was bypassed on the item B4, so I'll bring her up now. Lynette Turner.
Hi, Lynette Turner here. Thank you. I thought you forgot me. I just wanted to, normally we don't speak on a sunshine proposal, but I was talking with the superintendent today, and he mentioned something to me about the board not thinking that PSEA was interested in any other type of bargaining, including interest-based problem solving. And I wanted to draw your attention to item that on our sunshine proposal under Article 2, and it says explore methods of greater collaboration with management in negotiations and in dispute resolution. And that's exactly what we're talking about. And we don't want to get into the semantics of what is interest-based problem solving type of bargaining. We're interested in any collaborative bargaining, any. So I just wanted to clear that up, so between you all know, and the district management knows, and God knows, we're interested. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Now we're going to get into robotics and coaches.
Excuse me, I have 2 more cards. Public speaking. Comment.
Yeah, I'm going in the order. I still have
Oh, okay.
a bunch.
Just want to make sure.
The next speaker is Richard Pogue.
Hello, my name is Richard Pogue. My daughter went through the Poway School District from kindergarten through senior in high school. She graduated in 2009 from Rancho Bernardo High School. So about 9 years ago, she came home to me one day and said, my friends and I are starting a robotics team. We're going to build a robot, and we need somebody to teach us to program. So that started my journey. I started mentoring them, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard about FIRST, for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. Every year they start this program, give the kids a game to play, build a robot, and give them 6 weeks to build it. It's an impossible task, yet every year they do it. It is so much fun to watch them do it. I'm lucky in mentoring both RB High. After my daughter graduated, I stayed behind. I kept going back every year and helping more and more students. These students are amazing workers. They go into colleges. I listened to one of my daughter's friends one year talk to Dean Kamen at a regional competition about the merits of going to MIT or Caltech. Which one should she choose? Well, she chose neither. She actually went to Harvey Mudd College and became a mechanical engineer. It's truly amazing what these kids do. And yet they can't do all of that work without having their teacher coach there with them. And in particular at RB High, we've had trouble the last few years of keeping teachers involved and into the program. And I think having a stipend for paying them to coach this, because the hours are unbelievable how much they put in. I get to go in and out whenever I want to because I'm a volunteer. They have to stay there. They have to work with the kids. They have to get the robot done. And throughout the year, they spend a lot of time taking the kids out on public service. They visit middle schools and elementary schools. First has programs all the way down to kindergarten. So these high school kids come and they teach other children how to come up and build robots. It's really an amazing thing to see. And all of that takes time from the teacher. The teacher has to be there when they make these visits. They have to schedule bus trips for them. And the regional competitions are even more exhausting because they are fully 12-hour days for a 3-day weekend that the teacher has to be there. The kids love it, the teachers get tired, but they always come back because they really enjoy seeing it, as do I. It's really an amazing feat. I'd like to invite you all, if you haven't been to a competition, to come to the San Diego Regional this year and see what really goes on. You'll see so many students there that are so excited about the opportunity they're getting, and every one of those students are going to become professional engineers at some point in their career. Some of them, like my daughter, become history majors and go on and sail tall ships for a living. But others will become engineers or artists. There's many, many facets of FIRST that every student can take advantage of there. So I'd like to invite you all to come see a competition, come visit the schools. They're right now in their second week of their 6-week build period. Things are hectic and crazy, but if you could come by and see them, get to know them, and see what the program's like, talk to the teachers, understand what they have to go through to keep this program going. It's truly worthwhile. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dan Martinez.
Superintendent Collins, President O'Connor Ratcliffe, Mr. Zane, board members, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and thank you once again for allowing us to address the board regarding this issue of robotics coach stipends. I'm a parent volunteer at the Poway High School robotics team, but I'm here to support all robotics teams within the Poway School District. We've had a variety of students, parent volunteers, and team mentors address the board over the last several months, describing how important it is to support the robotics programs within our schools and the benefits that are derived from supporting STEM education. I've seen this with my own eyes, with my own son, in his development and growing interest in his pursuit of an engineering career. And thanks to his experience with Poway's robotics team, the engineering pathway program, and the mentoring from his robotics coach, I'm very proud to say that he's already been accepted at an excellent engineering school coming up. So supporting these programs should be a no-brainer. And I imagine that you feel the same way, but we mustn't leave it just to wishful thinking. The foundation of a successful robotics team are the coaches that invest countless hours inside and outside of the classroom to plan, organize, manage, lead, and motivate the students. They need your support. And I'd like to point out that in the past year, most, if not all, coaches have not received any stipend, from the work that they've done. So it takes a lot to maintain a successful robotics team. And besides the actual work of designing and building the robots, competing and promoting, the students are busy conducting fundraisers to pay for their materials, competition, registration fees, and paying for travel expenses. They should not have to pay coach stipends as well out of these efforts. So it's our hope and desire that you will restore the stipend payments to the robotics coaches, paid for by the district, not from fundraisers, and stipends should be paid according to the coaching schedule, not the service schedule. Additional stipend amounts could be awarded as an incentive if the teams qualify for regional and national competitions. If a final decision to fund these stipends will take much longer, then I'm sure that the coaches will accept an interim solution with pay, until the final solution is decided. Thank you very much for your attention, consideration, and continued support.
Our next speaker is Vicki Fulton on robotics. Nick, make your N a little stronger. Make your N so it doesn't look like a V.
Sorry. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here representing Del Norte High School's Team Optics, and I'm here today, as some more people are as well, to talk about the compensation issue for the team coaches. One particular who's a constant help for our team and helped us grow tremendously throughout the last couple of years has been Mr. Pogue. He spoke earlier. And he's been very beneficial to our team, and without him, I feel like our team wouldn't have been able to turn into the success it is today. Success to me in this stance is the ability to provide STEM career choices to my peers. These coaches are what makes us successful because their dedication to our team, and without this resource, our coaches for STEM clubs such as robotics might not be able to help us reach our goals of going to a good engineering college, or maybe even going to college at all. Once again, I'd like to emphasize the fact that without these coaches, we wouldn't be able to do most of the things that we do, because there's not that many people out there who can help us, and coaches are definitely an important asset to helping us out and learning how to get a head start in these STEM careers. Once again, I feel like these coaches should be compensated for their dedication to the team, such as my own. And before I finish, I would like to also thank Mr. Pogue as well as other coaches for helping us grow. Thank you.
The next speaker is Anjali Patil on robotics.
Hello, I'm a junior from Del Norte and I'm in the robotics team optics, and I'd like to describe what robotics is to me. Ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to be an engineer. And I feel like all the other girls my age didn't really want that. They mostly wanted to be doctors, but nobody ever wanted to be an engineer. And sometimes I feel like I didn't understand what it meant to be an engineer. And being a part of robotics has helped me understand what it means to be an engineer and the process behind it, and it's also given me the confidence to be an engineer, especially when the people around you isn't as popular among the people around you. And I know that the coaches for robotics have really helped create an environment in which I can make mistakes and I can mess up and I can learn from everything that I've done. As a 16-year-old, I feel really small in such a big world, and robotics has made me feel bigger. If you've ever seen a power tool, those things are ginormous. They make really loud sounds and seem like you wouldn't be able to know how to use them. But robotics allows you to learn how to do things like that, and they give you the confidence. Like, I would not be here today if it weren't for robotics, because it means a lot to me, and it's given me the confidence to be able to speak in front of all these adults and know that they'll be listening to me, because that's what my coaches do for me. And I feel like everybody in robotics feels the same way, because I have never seen so many confident people in one room. When I go to the competitions, everyone is so excited. It's absolutely contagious. And robotics has really helped me so much, and I feel like now when I go into the engineering field in whatever university or college I go to, I will be able to tackle any challenge that comes my way. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ellen Montgomery on College Bound.
So I'm going to tag team with my daughter here.
Hello, board members. My name is Tima Montgomery, and I am a junior at Mount Carmel. I've been in College Bound since the 7th grade, and I would like to share with you my experiences in this program. Being that it is an African American focused group, I feel that College Bound has a significant positive impact on students that participate. It provides us with a community experience that is focused on our future. Our conversations when we see another are now likely to include how we do on a test, which classes we'll be taking next try, or discussions on who would be a good person to go for to help. Without this program, we would probably just be talking about fun stuff, new music, or sports. Being a minority can mean that you feel that no one understands what you are, feel like no one understands or you are alone. But since we all know one another, we are more comfortable talking about our struggles with a subject and figuring a way to handle it rather than thinking that we are the only ones that get it. When I first joined College Bound, there was a large requirement for my parents to pay for us in this program. I didn't feel comfortable telling my friends that they should join because I didn't know if their families could handle it, and it required us to go to 4 hours on a Saturday morning. Now we meet each week at school, and the school board has given us the financial support for more to participate. I tell everyone that they should be involved. I'm anxious for my senior year and to use all the lessons that I've learned in College Bound when I begin to apply my choices for four-year colleges. I feel confident that I will make the right choice because I am prepared. I will have a fulfilled with the requirements. I have the tools and resources to make a great decision. Thank you, PSD board members, for supporting us.
And I'm Ellen Montgomery, her mother, and I want to just reiterate her statements. Thank you, board members, and thank you, Poway Unified, for supporting this program. The adult supporters that participate in this program are required to participate in a monthly meeting, and there's many of us here this evening. If you'd like to stand for a moment just to show how many there are. So we are encouraging them they encourage us to observe board meetings, to see what goes on in the school, to stay connected. And this program allows that. It allows the parent, it gives the parent an opportunity to connect with their child. And I love being connected with it. It's nice for me to be able to put a face with the parent of who my children are speaking with. So it's nice community that we have, and we support one another. We support each other by getting the women that run this program, Dr. Willis, Ms. Parnham, Marcia Dotson. They show us ways to speak to the colleges, to get our children prepared for their applications, and we can all understand this together. They also prepare us to let our kids leave for school, getting finance.
You know what? I because you guys, you're speaking, and we have to count you as two different speakers. So if you want to take your next 1 minute 20,
I'll appreciate that.
I'll allow that. But you can only have 3 more speakers on College Bound. We've used up 2.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
So
one more
just reiterating that this program allows us to have our children get ready to school, not just through the school work. It helps us teaching them to get bank accounts and making their laundry on their own and doing time commitments. And some of these things, it's not things that I thought about until I got into this group. So it's not all about schoolworks. Parent meetings allows us to see the bigger picture. So I thank the board for understanding that the students are more successful when they have engaged support at home. And like the parenting classes that PUSD provides, the PTAs, the foundations, the sports booster clubs, this is another one of those avenues. So thank you. I hope you will continue to look at diverse ways to include parents and guardians stay connected with their children and with the schools. These types of programs are just money well spent. Thank you.
Before we move to the next speaker, I also want to just give a warning. Our 30-second warning, the yellow light is not working tonight, so be aware of your time. It's going to go straight from green to red. Maybe it's being fixed.
Our next speaker is Amon Ra Cunningham.
How you all doing this evening? Excellent, excellent. So once again, my name is Amon Ra Cunningham. I just recently graduated from the Morehouse College of Atlanta, Georgia in May 2015. Thank you. I appreciate that. But today I wanted to come to talk to you about how College Bound has changed my life. I started in College Bound when I was in the 6th grade. I was the youngest. I was the youngest student in the program. Grew up in PUSD. I went to Mesa Verde Middle School. And so when I was there as a 6th grader, I didn't really know much really about the world and how things worked. I was kind of a little troublemaker. They can attest to that a little bit, not too bad, but I wasn't really sure of really where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And so my grades were kind of slipping a little bit in middle school, but I always knew that once I got into College Bound, I always knew that, hey, I want to go to college. Like that was what they built. That was the village that they had set up. So I didn't know where I wanted to go, but I said, hey, I want to go somewhere, just don't know where. And so that year we actually took a trip overseas to Europe and a couple different countries on a college type of tour. And the cool thing about that for me was it opened my eyes to that anything is possible. You don't even have to go to college maybe in America. There's colleges all over the world that you can attend to. And I was open to that in the 6th grade. I think that's an amazing thing just for me, and that my mom allowed me to do something like that. She was on the trip as well, but we definitely College Bound trip. So that was me in 6th grade, and so for the next couple years, I was just really just trying to find myself and okay, what do I want to do? But College Bound really shaped that for me. And so then when I went into high school was when I said, hey, now I got to get my act together and really figure out what I want to do and how I want to get there. And I feel like without College Bound, I would not have gone to Morehouse College. That definitely would not have happened. I feel because they really made me feel like somebody that matters, and that going away to college outside of the state could be one of the best things that could happen to you. And without College Bound, that would never have happened. I would probably be, no disrespect, I would probably be at a school in California, but just going to school outside of the state just gave me a much broader perspective on the world, and just how to be a world-class citizen, and just how to respect your peers and learn how to deal with different people that you may not see every day and things like that. And so College Bound really just was probably the most influential program outside of my parents and things like that really helped me get to the next step of my life and pretty much saved me from doing some things that I probably shouldn't be doing. So yes, College Bound was definitely one of the most influential parts of my life. Definitely. Thank you.
I have a lot of separate topics, but there's a group that's speaking on item D202, and they'll be called when that item comes up for discussion. Our next speaker here is Carmen Miranda, speaking on taxpayer monies.
Good evening. My name is Carmen Miranda. I'm here today. I'm not going to speak today about the expensive bond measure that you just passed. I'm not here to speak on the raise that you just gave the superintendent so he can retire it on. I'm here to demand that you stop business with Shinoff Law Firm, getting restraining order on people that are concerned, taxpayers that are concerned, parents that are concerned. Getting restraining orders on them to just silence them is not right. And I hope that more parents in the Poway district are concerned about this, because the thousands and $1 million that are going to Mr. Shinoff's law firm is money that should be going to our kids. And it's shameful, it's embarrassing, and it's wrong. So I hope and I suggest that you do not renew the contract with Mr. Shinoff, because it's going to cost you way more money, and this money needs to go to the kids. And that's all I have to say. So this is the abuse of power, and that's what you're doing right now. It's abusing your powers. So let people talk. They don't have to give a topic, and you cannot be speaking and making remarks when the speakers come, because that's against the Brown Act. Yes, it is. So you should take that class again. Good night. Thank you.
Next speaker is Stan Rodkin on the recall election.
Good evening. I'm Stan Rodkin. I live in Rancho Penasquitos. I've lived there for over 40 years. Some of you know that I'm a former member of this school board. Some people in the audience remember that. Most people do not know that. It was back in the 70s, I was a 13-year member of this board. I heard some gratifying things tonight about the work the district is doing with dyslexics, with robotics, and to assist potential engineers, and also the college-bound program. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here to speak against the recall of Andy, because it's foolhardy. It's you don't recall a board member if there was an incident at a school or if there were some hurt feelings. But the main reason I'm here to speak against it is it's a total waste of public money. I called the registrar. It will cost between $540,000 and $640,000 to do it. And if the people who are doing it get the number of signatures that's required, I think it's 10,700. If they do that, it will take a month or more to verify those signatures, and it'll be late spring or summer before they get it on the ballot. And I think we all know, and I think, Andy, you know, that the handwriting is on the wall. That cab, that borrowed 1, pay back 10, that deal didn't meet the smell test. And the voters have already taken care of 3 of the 4 board members, or 3 of the 5, who voted for that. I don't know whether that was a unanimous vote or not. But the kids in those schools, if they remain in Poway and raise a family and live here, they're the ones that are going to pay that back. Borrow 1, pay back 10. That's incomprehensible how that happened, and I think you all know that the voters are going to take care of that issue, and Andy, I think you know as well as I do what's going to happen in the fall. Now, it says in the Bible there's a time to sow and a time to reap. Andy, you did some wonderful work when you were principal at Abraxas. You worked miracles with handicapped and difficult kids, and I can remember one with an IQ of about 27 who got through and became a useful citizen, and there were things that he could do. You did wonders there, Andy, but to paraphrase the Bible, there's a time to serve and a time to leave. And I think the time is now. My advice, save embarrassment. If they do qualify for an election, it's a total waste of public money. Those people who are signing those ballots and signing those petitions, I don't believe they're aware that the district will pay the cost, and it'll be $500,000. So my advice, Andy, is step down now, avoid the embarrassment, resign, let the board members pick someone to fill your term. You have to have 4.
Thank you. The next speaker is Dr. Darlene Willis, talking about intimidation for speaking, PUSD board meetings.
Happy New Year to the school board members, to the staff. And I want to say happy 25th birthday to my young son that just flew in from New York, that's in the back. Graduate of Poway School District, and because of the great education here, is a graduate of the distinguished Morehouse College. I'm coming tonight. I want to first thank the staff and the board for following through. A year ago, I was one of those speakers that talked about Black History Month, and you responded. We presented in a professional, courteous manner, and I wish that was the case for everything. Last month, I came before this board, and I spoke my opinion, and I was intimidated, I was harassed, I received threatening emails, and so I'm coming to you to appeal to you, the 5 of you tonight. This is no joke. When people have to look around their shoulders, they have to consider, do I need to go out and purchase a gun to protect my family? Do I need to set my alarm on my home? Do I need to get protection from my little great nephews? All because I decided to speak up at this board meeting. And I'm not sure, I'm sure you all know the people that are responsible for this. I'm asking you to strategize, because this is not a game. Lives are involved here. And before someone gets hurt, it's not fun having to always look around your shoulder. It's not fun having to go through the process of calling the sheriff's office and having to go to court. It's not fun, all because I spoke out against what some few people want based off of their agendas. And so I'm asking you tonight, I can only imagine, I'm just one person, I can imagine what others have had to go through. The intimidation, because we speak up at this board meeting. And it's not fair, and it's not safe. So I ask that you please strategize to make this stop. You know who's involved in it, and people cannot be in fear. I fear no man. I fear God only. But I'm bold, and I'm one to speak up and come back. It will not shut me down for speaking my opinion. But I need your assistance, Poway, because this harassment comes because I spoke at this board meeting. So I ask that you please do something about it, and do something about it now before somebody gets hurt. Thank you.
Doctor, thank you for your comments. Just because it wasn't explicitly clear by your remarks, can you clarify, have you received intimidation from any of the board members or was someone outside off of the board?
No, I have not received intimidation from any of the board members. I've received intimidation from folks that are in this audience because of me speaking out.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Joanne Woodard, in support of the superintendent and staff.
My name is Joanne Woodard, and I live in Poway, and I also teach in this wonderful district. And I wanted to come again tonight just to speak for the silent majority of my neighbors, parents of my children, teachers at my school, our PFT and their leadership, in support of our superintendent and his staff for all of their dedication and hard work. We truly thank you. After listening to a few of the comments, there were a few things that I just wanted to briefly say. I just want the board to know that as a PFT rep, that our PFT members are totally in sync with our leadership and the contract, the IBPS process that they use to reach an agreement. They have the wholehearted support of the Poway teachers. With regard to Andy Patapow, I urge you not to step down, because I do not believe that this motion or this movement to get you to step down or to recall. I don't think there's any way that they're going to find the number of people in this district who would sign those petitions, and therefore we're behind you. We want you to stay and serve out your term as you have done for all of these years, and then in the fall we will be able to elect someone to replace you unless you decide to stay, in which case I think we would be behind you. I also wanted to say my second grade students began our study of Rosa Parks in December on the anniversary of the bus boycott when she refused to give up her seat. And we've now been learning for the past week and a half about Martin Luther King. I would like to invite all of the board members to our Friday flag ceremony. Starts at 8:15. Second graders will be presenting the program in honor of Dr. King. Email, I'm at Shoal Creek, and if you're able to come, we will make sure you have a parking place. And again, I thank you for all of your hard work.
Next speaker is Shane Harris, speaking. Where's the Reverend?
Hello. How are you all doing today? Thank you for letting me join you and I want to thank those who invited me as a guest. I am here today because I come in the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I come as the San Diego president of the National Action Network. I head up the chapter and work in conjunction with Reverend Al Sharpton. And I'll say this, that I don't know you, and by no means am I going to judge you as a board. But I'm here to speak on behalf of the untold heroes of Poway. I'm here to speak on behalf of those who are underserved and underrepresented in North County. And I'm here to really deal with the fact that this law firm that you have had, the Shanoff law firm, Dan Shanoff, dealing with this law firm and the dealings that you've had. I've heard for some time about North County in general, dealing with this law firm and the legal counsel that it provides. And I'm very concerned about people in this position where they are just speaking from a passionate place of challenges that are happening in their community and in their schools, but feeling like if they speak up or say something too much, that they will be restrained from that point on from really being able to speak from the passionate place of challenges that are happening in their community. I'll say this, that there's a young man named Chris Garner that we are joining an alliance with, and we're going to fight for Chris. We are going to ensure justice for Chris. And with me being the co-publisher of a newspaper here in San Diego, the San Diego Monitor newspaper, and my relationship with the media, I want to tell a good story about the Poway School District. I want to tell a story where we were able to meet and have a conversation, Ms. President, to ensure that justice and clarity and communication are happening between particularly the Black and Hispanic communities of Poway. So I would like to see that we would call for his this restraining order and this constant issue of restraining orders against people for speaking, that they have the opportunity to voice their opinions clearly. And I want to ensure that you know that we are watching. I have made a call already to Reverend Al Sharpton. I want to make the right decision here, and I want you to make the right decision here. We can make this the easy way or the hard way, but I want to ensure that we get this done and we get it done for the people. The people must have a voice. And so since Chris's restraint,
Thank you.
and I want to say this.
Concludes our public comments. Sit down. Sit down or you'll be removed. Miss, do I have to have you removed as well?
And don't point fingers. That's rude.
30 seconds and they're out.
You're out too.
I don't belong to Poway.
Would you please leave voluntarily?
There's going to be disruption. You got to go. No disruption. I apologize. No disruption.
That concludes our public comments. All other speaker slips are on an agenda item.
No, you're on it. 200 and 202.
Apparently there weren't.
Choice because you
Ran out.
yes.
No. One item under item C.
On January 7th, I submitted to President Michelle Connor Ratcliffe an employee complaints against John Collins and 8 other district employees. These complaints were all identical and deal with the exact same violation of the Education Code concerning using PSUD resources, monies, email campaigns for the political purposes of supporting Andy Padafalt. Today I received a letter from Tracy Hogarth. Tracy letter indicates that the board will hear the complaint against Collins, but the complaints of the other 8 will be heard by the personnel director. That is not correct, and I strongly disagree with that. No subordinate of John Collins should hear the same case on 8 subordinates of his. All 9 of these cases should be heard by the board. It would be grossly unfair to have a subordinate to John and to influence you with that decision and then hear John's case separately. These cases, these 9 people were chosen because I believe the cost expended to the district exceeded $1,000. That $1,000 exceeding that $1,000 could raise this up to a felony, and I would like for you to hear this case as a board. Thank you.
All right, now that concludes item C. Our action items fall under D, and we'll start with D101, ratification of stipulated agreement for student expulsion. Dr. Robertson.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight we bring forward one stipulated agreement for the board's action.
I'll hear a motion.
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? This item passes unanimously, 5-0. D102, readmission of students on expulsion. And we have 3 cases here. Dr. Robertson.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight we bring forward for the board 3 readmission cases for your action.
Quick question, do I need to take a vote separately on each of them, or can we lump them together?
Together.
You can do them together.
Okay, I will hear a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions? The item passes unanimously again, 5-0. D201, ratification of the Poway Federation of Teachers, tentative agreement 2015-16. Associate Superintendent Hogarth.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight I ask that you approve the tentative agreement between the Poway Unified School District and the Poway Federation of Teachers.
And I'll hear a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And any discussion? Ms.
Before we go to a vote, I know it was mentioned during public comment about this is a tangential relationship with regard to the other bargaining units, that they did relinquish their Me Too's based on really an implicit agreement of good faith and fair bargaining. So I think I would urge the board to perhaps reconsider how we want to address the now inequity in the amount of the wage appropriation that we've given to all the units, specifically that PSEA received 2.5% and SEIU received 3%. Certainly don't begrudge the PFT 4%. I just think we should be cognizant of the fact that in good faith, these other 2 bargaining units relinquished their Me Too's prior to the PFT's their agreement, and that's pretty much all I want to say on that.
Thank you. Other comments? I do have some thoughts that I do want to share. First, I want to say that I will support this and vote yes, but I do have a few thoughts that I want to share on why I think that once again PFT bargaining had a few hiccups. Despite the board attempting to clarify some expectations after last year's remarkably similar hiccups, the same problem cropped up this year. And I did mention last month in my my board member comment that I attended at the beginning of December a kind of a how-to seminar on interest-based bargaining. And it was a great overview of what is really a potentially extremely beneficial type of bargaining. But it was about what it should look like, and it looked great. But I would say that it didn't look like what we're doing here. So before contract negotiations for 2016-17 progress too far with any of our bargaining units, I would like to see all bargaining team members from all the employee groups, the superintendent and cabinet and board members here, participate in a training or a refresher on this interest-based bargaining, the IBPS. We must all get on the same page here, clarify expectations and roles, and do this right. I do hope the rest of the board and the bargaining unit members will see the upside and support this suggestion. I think this is really good for everyone. It'll help us eliminate some needless misunderstandings that we've had happen 2 years in a row now, and really make the positive employee relationships our priority. And with that, I'll take any other comments. Okay, then all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? How would you like me to call your votes, Mr. Pujar? I want to make sure I'm respecting your position
I
down
think you
there.
can just ask for a vote, and then I can say whether I have a comment or not.
Mr. Pujar, do you have a preferential vote on this item?
I do not.
Any comments?
Not at this time.
All right, I'll do it right next time. Thank you, sir. And I'm sorry, did I ask for opposed?
Yes, Charles Bruce, and I voted no.
And abstentions? All right, then the vote is 4-1 in favor, with Mr. Sellers voting no. And you're going to let me know if there are speakers, right?
Yeah.
On which item?
202.
We have 6 speakers on item 202. Have they said pro or con? We need to know that. We only allow 5 speakers per side of the issue. And I'm going to allow, well, while we figure that out, if you're speaking on item 202, please come up and see Clerk Patapow momentarily to note pro or con. And and I will allow, item 202 is the ratification of compensation for Association of Poway School Managers, Represented Employees. Ms. Hogarth.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight, for your approval, the Association of Poway School Managers Compensation Agreement.
Okay, 5 pro, 1 con, and I will take the public speakers now. Clerk Patapow.
Patty Hurt.
Good evening, and once again, thank you for letting me speak in front of you tonight. I'm Patty Hurd, and I'm Assistant Principal of Alternative Programs, and I'm also the APSM President. And I'm here tonight just to speak on behalf of our APSM team and to respectfully educate everybody on exactly who we are and what we do and how we support the PUSD team in general. APSM is a group of over 290 classified and certificated employees. These employees are very caring individuals who support the education of our students. They care for our kids before and after school. They clean up during the day, before school, after school. They make sure our campuses are clean and ready to go for our students. They counsel our students, they transport our students, and overall in general, they ensure the safety of all 3,300 students that we have in Poway Unified School District. We are an integral part of our PUSD team. Absent is the only unrepresented group of employees in PUSD. We are unrepresented because we have always felt respected and valued by our school board. So valued that we were the first ones to accept the rollback salaries when the district needed us to. We accepted those rollbacks knowing that and trusting that when finances got better, we would be quickly considered for compensation to pick up the pieces. Many of us still today are in financial straits due to the rollbacks in the past. Our families have also suffered from that. So we tonight would just like to remind you and respectfully request that the board considers the work of all of us 290 employees and understands that without our leadership, without the leadership of our absent employees, Poway Unified School District wouldn't be the school district that they are today. And once again, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Donnie Kirchmeyer.
Hello, and thank you. My name is Donnie Kirchmeyer, and I'm an ESS supervisor within the Poway Unified School District. I'm part of the absent board, and I actually represent 29 early childhood development supervisors and ESS supervisors. Collectively, we have over 500 years of service within Poway Unified. We manage over 450 classified employees. We have over 4,100 students in our ESS programs and 950 students in our preschool programs that we have every day. Just to give you an idea of what we do, every site has between 60 and 260 kids enrolled that we take into our program, and we take safety precautions, or we are in charge of their safety every day after school. To give you an idea about our summertime, this summer, us supervisors took field trips on 415 field trips for our 8-week span. We had to plan these trips. We took our kids. We made sure that their safety was there. On top of that, also, with our professional growth, over the last few years, we've done things called boot camps, which we are actually trying to train our classified staff on aspects of STEAM and STEM, special education, just basically how-tos on how to deal with parents and students. And just recently, over the Professional Growth Day, we've decided over the last few years that us as supervisors can train our staff. We don't need to get outside sources. So all 29 of us supervisors, and there's also our lead assistants, designed and implemented a Professional Growth Day to all 450 of our staff. With that, we had ideas on growth mindset, teaching our staff on what that is. STEM and STEAM, teaching them activities on what they can do with our students before and after school. And then also on the Genius Hour, which we're trying to implement into our programs, which just gives the students an option. Genius Hour, called passion projects, where they can basically express themselves. All this, and on top of that, every day we're there from 6:30 a.m. till 6 p.m. We're there before the teachers and after the teachers. On top of that, with that also, just to give you a little bit idea, yes, ESS supervisors and early childhood we are absent members, but foremost we are Team PUSD, and on that top of that, we are here for the students. That's why we do what we do. Thanks for your time.
Next speaker is Hillary Ward.
Good evening. My name is Hillary Ward, and I'm a school psychologist at Westview High School. I'm here tonight to represent the 33 school psychologists who work for the district and our absent members. Many believe that we only work with special education students. The truth is we work with all students. The National Association of School Psychologists describes our roles as applying expertise in mental health, learning, and behavior to help children and youth succeed academically, socially, behaviorally, emotionally. School psychologists partner with families, teachers, school administrators, and other professionals to create safe, healthy, and supportive learning environments that strengthen connections between home, school, and the community. I could give you many statistics and data on how our jobs fit into that description, but tonight I want to give you a very small glimpse of who we really are and what we do. We help to identify students who are struggling academically, behaviorally, socially, and emotionally, and help to uncover why this is happening. We educate and comfort parents who are learning for the first time their child has an intellectual disability or has autism. We work with and help students that are highly gifted academically who struggle socially and don't know how to make friends. We provide a safe haven for students when they need to take a break, need to unwind, vent, or cry. We work with and help students with emotional disabilities such as selective mutism, bipolar, schizophrenia, students who are depressed, anxious, having panic attacks, are self-mutilating, and have suicidal ideation. We make the difficult phone call to parents when their child discloses to us that they want to kill themselves, and then help them to work through the next steps to get help. We help teachers to come up with a plan on how to work with students with challenging behaviors, such as biting, kicking, screaming, running away, not doing any work, being defiant, disrespectful, and not achieving to their abilities. We work with administrators, related service providers, and other staff members to help them understand a student's unique learning needs and how to work with them so they can achieve their potential. We also celebrate with our students when they get a good grade, make a friend, reach a goal, make an athletic team, join a club, and graduate high school. We are a hard-working group who put in an average of 50 to 60 plus hours a week and look forward to vacations and time off so we can get caught up with our paperwork. We do this because we are passionate about our jobs and the welfare of our students. I want to conclude with a story of a student I worked with several years ago. This student struggled with depression and suicidal ideation. I worked closely with her to keep her safe and build her self-esteem and confidence. At Christmas time, she gave me a card. It said, "Merry Christmas and thank you for saving my life." That is what school psychologists do, and we are APSM. Thank you.
Next speaker is Matt Hunt.
Good evening. My name is Matt Hunt. I began working in Poway Unified School District in 2001, first as a special education teacher, and later became a counselor in 2005 at Rancho Bernardo, where I currently work. I currently represent the guidance and counseling staff on the APSM board and have been an APSM member since I earned my counseling position. I'm here tonight to share with the board and everyone in the audience how we support the students, teachers, and parents that make up Poway Unified School District as counselors. I often share with people, every day is different as a counselor. While we have a plan for the day, we never know what question or challenge will arrive at our door. Poway Unified consists of roughly 33,000 K-12 students who are supported by only 57 counselors. This breaks down to caseloads of 600 to 1, when the recommended national ratio is 250 to 1. Here's a snapshot of my schedule last week. I supported a student whose mother passed away from cancer, another who needed help with his FAFSA application, and I met with a teacher to discuss how we may better support failing students. This was in addition to preparing for the opening of second semester, which was today, checking on senior graduation progress, enrolling new students into this great district, and answering an abundance of emails. At the same time, my colleagues at the elementary, middle, and alternative ed levels are focused on classroom lessons, transition meetings, chairing 504 meetings, parent nights, and much more. All of these tasks are performed with care, diligence, and with one goal in mind: providing and supporting our students with the utmost professional guidance. As you move forward with discussion, I respectfully ask you remember APSM includes counselors and all that we do to support our students and this great district. Thank you.
Tim Purvis.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and staff. I'm Tim Purvis. You know me as the Director of Transportation. The acronym ABSM, the Association for Poway School Managers, it just dawned on me a few minutes ago, I think is possibly a bit misleading. My task this evening, narrowing in on business support services and how we support our wonderful teachers, our superior classified staff, and all the needs of our students in the classroom and those that teach them, is really as team leaders. My task here tonight is I want to talk about the 7 departments that make up business support services for you, and possibly identify some of those individuals that you may not think of when you think of ABSM and you see me standing in front of you in a suit. 11 custodial supervisors are within business support services assigned specifically to our middle schools and high schools, supervising approximately 50 custodial individuals. This is in addition to the custodial staff that's at our elementary sites. I don't know how they do it, but they're supporting 3 million square feet of building space. In the area of finance, with over a $300 million budget, 2 managers assure that that budget is aligned for our Associate Superintendent of Business Support Services, assuring that our bills are paid, finances are appropriately apportioned, and budgets such as mine and transportation. Food and nutrition. You recognize possibly the 2 managers within that area, but are you aware that there's 6 area supervisors in our production kitchens, in addition to 6 supervisor 2s in those same kitchens at our middle schools and high schools, preparing for food in both breakfast, nutritional snacks, as well as lunch for over 36,000 kids daily. In addition to that, 5 supervisors in food and nutrition are assigned at our middle schools to do appropriately the same. Within the maintenance and operations section, you'd recognize Mike Tarantino and possibly his assistant director, Carl Rossi. But are you aware there's just 2 supervisors in that department? Again, one assigned to the ground supervisor, where he leads a team that somehow supports over 400 square acres of property in the district. As well, the trade supervisor, again, with over 3 million square feet of building space within the district, the support and the work orders that are generated by all of us, as well as the teachers, to assure that their facilities are appropriate. Technology, you're well aware of the 2 directors in that area, but are you aware of the 2 program managers, the integration, that assure the integration of digital resources supporting the classroom, staff in areas such as payroll, just as one example. They touch nearly every aspect of business of educating students and employee needs and resources, both in my support services as well as me personally. Transportation, obviously near and dear to my heart. 2 operations supervisors have the greatest number of direct reports of any advisors in the district. They assure that they lead a team of very competent school bus drivers and support staff that assure that over 4,000 special needs kids and home to school students get to school daily. In addition to that, they oversee and coordinate through staff the efforts of over 4,800 field trips that will be completed annually. They arrive long before I'm up in the morning, and many of them are there till 7:30 at night, making sure our facilities and transportation are appropriate for students, and that's in our equipment. An operations supervisor in transportation.
Thank you. Last but not least, Mr. Tom Moore.
First of all, I'm not against any pay raises for any of the 8 of the people in this room, but I am against an unlawful meeting held by 3 board members on Sunday. Last week, I sent a letter to the Poway Unified Board of Education President, Michelle Connor Ratcliffe.
I'm going to stop you there. This doesn't have to do with the ABSM raise item.
It does, because you're going to give them a raise based on an unlawful meeting.
Okay.
It was ASP, and I like my time back too for that interruption. So I sent a letter to Mr. Connor Ratcliffe and all trustees of the board. It was a demand letter to cure or correct your action taken in violation of section 54 95 4.6b of the California Government Code, which stipulates, notwithstanding any law, a legislative body shall not call a special meeting regarding the salaries, salary schedules, or compensation paid in the form of fringe benefits of a local agency executive. This includes anyone with a contract, superintendents and associates, and head of departments. On Sunday, January 10th, the two agenda items violated this law. They were listed as closed sessions, labor negotiation, associate superintendents, closed session, labor negotiation, APSM employees. Labor negotiations include salaries, salary schedules, or compensation. A recent news article from the stated that Poway Unified School, John Collins may be trying to negotiate an exit deal, but he's also jockeying for a 4% raise for himself, his 3 associates, and district managers before he goes. Because Collins has a Me Too, he gets whatever the manager gets, retroactive to last July. Since I mailed my letter, I have received no response from the board president, even though this is a very important legal matter. If you do not cure or correct this illegal meeting, the district attorney or I will file legal action, and you 3 may be found guilty of a misdemeanor. The Brown Act states that any member of a legislative body who attends a meeting in violation of this chapter and intends to deprive the public of information which the member has reason to know the public is entitled to is guilty of misdemeanor. Because this is such an obvious violation, a judge is likely to declare Sunday's meeting null and void. So any action taken on this agenda item tonight will be undone until a corrected board meeting is held. Thank you.
And that concludes our speakers on this item. Then I will take a motion before we have any discussion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, discussion.
I'm going to make a motion to table, which supersedes the motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, then we have some discussion on that motion to table. Is that open to discussion? Okay, not debatable, so we'll vote now then on whether to table the discussion on APSM. All in favor of Mr. Sellers' motion to table this discussion? Aye.
Aye.
That's 2 aye. Ms. Beatty, Mr. Sellers? Sorry, I didn't mean to say aye as if I was voting that way. All opposed? No. Any abstentions? No. So that motion fails on a 2-3 vote. We'll go back to the other motion. We had a motion and a second to approve this item. Any discussion?
The motion to table was based upon the very real concerns that Mr. Moore raised regarding the legality of the meeting. But since that failed, and it does appear we are going to vote on this item, legally or not, I'm going to briefly state my opposition to it. The first is the 4%, which is more than the other bargaining units got, which they got 3 and 2.5. I do not for a moment doubt the essential value of the services that APSM provides. Same with the teachers. Are they more essential than anybody else's? I would say no, because I just don't believe anyone's services are more essential than anyone else's. But that's the first problem I have, is the fact that it's 4 instead of 3. I would much rather have taken that extra percent and hired some more counselors to cut your workload and increase the amount of time you could spend with each child that you counsel. The other reason I can't support this is because of the Me Too clauses that are in the superintendent's contract and the associate superintendent's contracts, which A, have no business being in a contract at all, and B, I've stated previously my opposition to giving the superintendent any kind of a compensation increase.
Other comments?
I concur with Board Member Sellers' comments.
And any other comments? Yes, Mr. Zane.
I'll just rephrase what I may have said at a similar point this time last year, is that I personally would no sooner deny the 289 employees who, as one individual said, are there from 6 in the morning before teachers arrive until sometimes 6 p.m. until after they leave, because I disagree with, or the public may have some problems with one counselor or one principal or district administrator than if it were the superintendent. So I intend on supporting the motion.
Mr. Pettipow.
Doing this for 20 years and going through the interest-based bargaining unit, and I agree with the president that we all need training and get back on the same page. I think we've done it for so long, it's been so successful that we forget the intricacies of how it works, the give and take, and just the common sense in the whole approach. I mean, I know if we started with the interest-based bargaining in the beginning and we worked through it to this point as we have in the past years, we wouldn't be at this point now. And I feel that we didn't have the majority vote at that time, and we're at this state of the mess we're in right now. And I firmly agree that the absent members they need and they should get their 4% raise as a minimum. Thank you.
To address Mr. Moore's comment, I am confident that the board did not violate the law that you cited. I don't see you, but I am confident that that did not occur. There is no violation of the law at our January 10th meeting. I did, when considering this item, I did ask Associate Superintendent Hogarth for the list of APSM job titles because I wanted to make a comment about who we were talking about, but you've done that so nicely for me. I don't feel the need anymore. I had your numbers at 230. I guess it's 290. Sorry, but I don't want to punish any of those 290 members of APSM because of 4 employees in our district who have Me Too clauses in their contracts. Those associate superintendent contracts and superintendent contract were approved before I was elected. The board will have an opportunity to remove those Me Too clauses, that language, when those contracts expire, but not until then. And so until that time, again, I'm not willing to hold the rest of those 290 APSM members' raises hostage. I'll allow second comments, and then we'll go to the vote. Any second comments? Mr. Zane.
I'd just say to Mr. Purvis, I don't know if he's still around, I regret that you felt as though you needed to go through all that, but I certainly appreciated it. Thank you.
All right, seeing no further comments, I'll call the vote. All in favor of approving the ratification of compensation for Association of Poway School Managers, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
And no abstentions. That measure passes on a 3-2 vote. O'Connor, Ratcliffe, Sellers, and Pettipow voting aye. Sorry, Beatty and Sellers voting nay. Item D301, approval of our monthly budget revisions. Ms. Thalandi.
Thank you, Madam.
Get out quietly.
Ms. Lonley, everybody's leaving during the most exciting part. I don't know where everybody's going.
Is this on? No, you're good. Thank you, Madam President. Tonight we are bringing to the board our revisions that we made in the month of December to the general fund for approval by the board.
Are there any questions for Ms. Thalandi? And if not, I'll hear a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, on a motion by Member Pettipow and seconded by Vice President Zane. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And abstentions? That motion passes 5-0. E302, this is one of the pulled agenda items, and I'm sorry I didn't note who pulled it, but this is approval ratification of contractual services report. Ms. Thalandi.
Thank you, Madam President. This is the approval of contractual services for the month. Is there any particular item that the board had a question on?
Yes, Associate Superintendent Thalandi, I had pulled this. Just a brief question. We had some follow-up information on the typing agent, this new program. I was glad to see that it has been piloted and that the outcomes were quite positive. So this program will be for elementary and middle school. And what I would like to request, I did take a look at their website. They do have some programs for high school. We have a generation of kids in our school district, including all 4 of mine, that never learned how to formally type. Is there any kind of program that we can also incorporate? I know it's difficult with the high school, and the way the courses are structured, but is there any way we can incorporate this program in the high school level as well, to at least catch those students before they go off to college?
Right now it is for K
and one
8.
board member.
I type really fast with one hand on the shift button and the other hand just does all the work.
I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Robertson, who will answer this question.
Yeah, we can take a look at some of those potentialities. If we do make those available, it will cost. So these are all on a per student. So I think what I'll do is I'll work with the principals. We can do an assessment of our school, see who needs it, and maybe offer it at some after school or something, so it doesn't impact their classes for students that want to come in. So we'll take a look at that.
Thank you. Thanks. Since I pulled this agenda item, unless there's any other discussion, I will move to approve E302.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? And that motion passes unanimously. This, I believe, is the next item from the consent calendar pulled by Mr. Sellers, E303, ratification of district purchase orders, revolving cash fund expenditures, and purchase card transactions. Ms. Thalandi.
Thank you, Madam President. This is our list of purchase orders for the month of December. Was there any one in particular that there was a question on?
Yes, ma'am. I had a question on line item 58, which is purchase order 11900 to Best and Krieger LLP for legal expense, $15,000 and change. You had previously sent the board a description of the legal services that were provided for these 2 invoices. In the support that was provided to the board in the shared drive, I saw the purchase orders. The invoices were not there. I still haven't seen the actual invoices, but your description of them suffices. The question I have is that this was in response to an issue that was raised the last time the next item that's coming up was raised, which is whether or not the Delinka Group had a conflict of interest because they're acting as the school district's special tax consultant and CFD administrator. And the concern I have is that, A, we paid $15,000 for a legal opinion that we could have gotten for free from the California Fair Political Practices Commission, which is where Dr. Collins said he was going to get that opinion. And also, we haven't seen the opinion. So we don't know what the even Best and Krieger's assessment was vis-a-vis this conflict of interest that they were asked to look at. So in essence, I sort of don't like paying for something I don't have.
Okay, Mr. Sellers, I can answer that what this purchase order was for, but as far as what was the report that came out, I do not have that information as yet.
Okay, so that, I'm willing to entertain any comments that the superintendent has regarding why he chose to go to Best and Krieger to get this opinion for $15,000 instead of going to the FPPC, who he had originally indicated he would go to, since they are the governing body.
My comment on the FPPC was that we would be working with the team to determine if that was the best route to go, and that has still yet to be decided. We don't know what the legal opinion is until we get our own legal opinion that we're asking them to verify or not.
Okay, so the funds that we're approving now, the $15,000 and change, that doesn't come with a complete opinion. We still have more work to do before we get an opinion from Best and Krieger?
That is correct. This is the open purchase order, and then we are waiting for the opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Can, Ms. Lalonde, can you explain the purchase orders then? What were we purchasing?
This is for the service to Best Biss and Krieger.
Yes.
We have an attorney, Warren Diven, that gives us legal opinion on CFDs. He works closely with us, and the question was about conflict of interest of using the Delinka group. And so he is still assessing that, and we do not have the report as yet.
So it looked like there were two different purchase orders or two
different invoices.
Invoices?
Yes.
And it was for the same legal question?
Yes, it was. The first one was $8,938, and the second invoice was $6,752.
I think I have the same question, why we wouldn't just make a formal request of the FPPC to rule on the conflict of interest issue.
This question is beyond my capabilities, so if the board wishes, I can reach out to the attorney to get an opinion.
Legal opinions?
It is money spent on this work that is in progress.
Is there any indication as to when the work will be finished and what the total cost will be?
I do not have that information. I could find out and report back to the board.
Any further questions or comments on this? Mr. Sellers.
I'm going to move that we approve the item, the docket item, E303, with the exception of line item 58, which is purchase order 11900, pending additional input on how close we are to getting this work done and how much more it's going to cost to complete it.
Is there a second?
Mrs. Lalonde,
I need a second, Dr. Collins, before we move on. I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. No, Dr. Collins.
this is approval of, this is ratification of purchase orders. This is work that we have contracts with people, they've done the work, they've been paid, and now the board is ratifying it. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have received invoices based on work that was completed. One invoice was dated November 30th, and the second invoice was dated December 4th, so the work has been done.
And so if we have a contractor, we asked them to do work, they did the work, we paid them, or we haven't paid them yet.
We might have paid them. I'm not sure about that.
Well, whether we've paid them or not, are we going to be in breach of contract with someone we asked to do this work if they don't get paid?
Yes, we would have to pay them because the purchase order is the contract.
So I advise strongly against pulling one ratification of a payment off of this list. If there's a problem, we need to find a way to deal with that, but not paying a vendor who has done the work asked of him or her, I think you're looking at a violation of employment or a contract with the, I think you're opening the district's litigation.
Mr. Zane.
My question is similar to Dr. Collins. I was trying to, I wanted to inquire as to what's the effect of approving a motion like this where you single out one. I mean, how is that possible if it's already been paid?
Why are we approving it?
You can't approve it. Yeah. The board authorizes the staff to enter into contracts with vendors. The staff decides how to use those vendors. They use the vendors, they pay them, and the board ratifies it.
Well, I'm being asked to vote on a particular expense item that I'm not clear on and that I have questions about. If somebody were, remodeling my house and they submitted invoices to me, before I paid the invoices, I might actually ask them, well, how much work is left? How close are we to finishing this project? I'm certainly not advocating that we break a contract or not pay someone for work they've done. I'm just asking for clarification on how far along are we and how much is this process going to cost, and when can I see the opinion I've paid for, or we've paid for?
To Board Member Seller's point, is it in order to, if we were to approve this as docketed, but direct staff to direct Best and Krieger not to continue work on this project until we have a full accounting of where we are?
Once we get approval to process this as presented here, as I said, I can get back with the attorney and find out where he is and when we can expect the report from him and report back to the board.
And if that vendor says, well, I'm going to need to spend another $5,000, and this board gives direction we're not spending anymore, then we'll just have paid him $15,000 for an incomplete project.
No, I realize that that's a possibility, but I think that if it were in order, we should approve it as docketed and inquire with the vendor as to the status of the project before approving any additional invoices.
So this was requested when, this, the conflict of interest legal opinion?
Well,
just wondering how long, because $15,000 is a lot of money, and so I'm just wondering how long he's been working on this.
The date on the first invoice is November 30th, so he must have started his work in November.
Okay.
At this time, I'd like to call the vote on this, see how it goes, and then we can continue discussion if we need to. All in favor? I'm sorry, Mr. Sellers, could you restate your motion?
Actually, I'm willing to withdraw the motion in simply with the assurance that Associate Superintendent Thalandi is going to pursue this on our behalf. She's going to contact the attorneys, find out where they are in the process. For all we know, they're finished now, and there's just an invoice waiting. But she could send us an email telling us what that outcome was, and that would be fine. I could live with that.
Ms. Beatty, you seconded his motion. Are you all right with this withdrawal and change?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Okay, given that, would you like to state the new motion?
Yes, I move that we approve the item as presented.
Here a second?
Okay, I will second that.
Any further discussion?
The only other discussion was my question about the FPPC, because originally we were told that this issue was going to be addressed with the FPPC, which is an avenue that would have been free. So I just would also like to get some clarity on why that avenue wasn't pursued.
I will follow up on that as well, Ms. Beatty, and in my report to the board, I will include that explanation also.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, then, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Item passes unanimously. And with that, I'd like to call a, what do you say, 5-10 minute break? 5 minute. 5 minute break, because I know then everyone will come back in 10. 5 minute break. Let's get this going. Let's get this party started. Yeah, all right. Sounds great. All right, we're going to bring this thing back to order. Take your seats, board members. Item D501, approval of Resolution 07-2016 entitled Appointing and Employing Certain Financial Consultants in Connection with the Sale of District Number 15 Del Sur East Improvement Area C Special Tax Bonds. Ms. Thalandi.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight we are bringing forward the proposed sale of the CFD 15 Improvement Area C bonds and the hiring of the underwriter and the special disclosure counsel for this project.
Are there any questions? Mr. Sellers.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Thalandi, I'm looking at this resolution that we have tonight and the one that was brought before the board 4 months ago on September 16th, and I noticed some names have dropped off. McFarland and Anderson and Stiefel Nicholas remain, but we've removed Best and Krieger, Dolinka, and Fieldman Rolap, as well as Zions Bank and the appraiser, Mr. White. What's the reason for that?
Okay, Mr. Sellers, as you said, we have maintained Stiefel and Anderson, who's the bond counselor, because they do have to be hired in order to process the sale of the bond. The others that you mentioned that we had included in the September green sheet, what we realized is those 4 people have 5-year contracts with our district. Delinka Group has a contract for 5 years, as does Adam Bauer, who's the financial advisor, and Zion is a continuing contract, as well as the appraiser you just approved in item E 303. Yes, that one was approved today.
So the question I have is that, as the previous docket item raised, is that we're getting a legal opinion from Best and Krieger regarding whether or not we can use Delinka Group. And yet we've now decided that we don't need to approve Delinka Group because they have a 5-year contract. And so in essence, by approving this bond issuance to go forward by hiring Stiefel Nicholas and McFarland and Anderson, we're tacitly approving the use of Delinka Group without getting the advice of our attorneys as to whether or not that's a conflict of interest.
Well, as we said before, the conflict of interest is being still looked at and reviewed by the attorneys. But meanwhile, what we have discovered is when we started talking about this green sheet, we in Cabinet had asked if our financial advisor, Mr. Adam Bauer, could serve as the CFD consultant. But that is impossible because CFD consultant work is an ongoing work. So our district has 40 CFD accounts, and that's over 250 bank accounts that Delinka Group monitors monthly for us. So to expect somebody else to come in and take over a project, it will not work. It is in our best interest to have Mr. Adam Bauer as the financial advisor and have Delinka Group as the special tax consultant, because they do the ongoing work. They will be setting the tax rates. They will be preparing the schedules that go into the official statement as well as the preliminary official statement that Anderson will be putting together. Delinka Group does all of that work. He also certifies to the SEC that we are able to meet our tax obligations. So there's a whole slew of technical work that has to be done. If we were to, and Adam at the September board meeting had mentioned to the board that it would be in the best interest of the district to go with the existing CFD consultant, finish off this year, then if the board so desires, to go for RFPs the next fiscal year.
Well, I think one of the issues I take with that is that the dual roles that you just described as the CFD administrator and the special tax consultant that are so irreplaceable with respect to this firm, those are the very things that are causing us to seek counsel as to whether or not we have a conflict of interest. So I'm not comfortable facilitating that going forward by supporting this. Another question I have is that I look at the...
Mr. Sellers,
Yes,
can we let everybody have a chance to ask one before, and then I'll come back to you
By
if
all
no one
means.
has another one. Does anyone else
Pardon
have a
me.
question? Well, it looks like you're up again. Just want to take turns, give everybody some time.
The other item I notice that's missing is that this current motion has 2 whereases, and the previous one had 3. And the one that was taken out, it was a request essentially by the builder. Standard Pacific Homes also desires to continue utilizing the finance team that has worked on all of their previous community CFD bond issuances. And I agree that probably had no place there in the first place, but one of the arguments, so they're basically saying they want the continuity of continuing to use the same finance team, but the problem is that the old finance team was Stone and Youngberg. Now, Stone and Youngberg has been acquired by Stiefel Nicholas, so as far as they're concerned, Stone and Youngberg, Stiefel Nicholas, Stone and Youngberg, Stiefel Nicholas, it's one and the same to them because they're still the same party, so they believe them to be the same. However, this board discussed 4 months ago not wanting to use anybody affiliated with the cabs, and there was some sentiment on this board that, well, we're not going to penalize Stiefel Nicholas for acquiring Stone and Youngberg, and yet the applicant themselves basically says that's why they want to use Stiefel Nicholas, because of Stone and Youngberg.
Well, let me take that in 2 steps. The first one is Mr. Bill Ostrom, who is the developer, in his letter to us, which the board has received copies, had asked if we could use the same financial team. That is a request that we would like to honor to have the relationship moving forward, but more on a tangible basis, what I would like for the board to consider is that the financial advisor that we have who helps us with this, which is Mr. Adam Bauer, he has recommended that we go with Stiefel. And the reason for that, the most important reason in my books, is that Stiefel will be able to get lesser interest rates, thus saving our taxpayers money in the long run. Okay, that's a financial piece. And it's in the green sheet, all the recommendations and reasons why Adam was stating that. Okay, so even if we don't rely on pleasing the developer, we do have the advice of the financial advisor.
So, and I guess I want to continue to take questions here and then maybe do the motion to have discussion amongst ourselves, because I don't want to delve into discussion while we're still waiting for Ms. Delani to give answers to questions. So let's keep this to questions and then move to discussion after there's a motion.
There's a second piece that Mr. Sellers mentioned, and that was to do with, in the September meeting, the board had stated that if possible, we don't use any underwriters that had been involved in cabs. And what we had done is done a research, and of all the underwriters that are listed, every single one has been involved in cabs. And we sent that list to the board. It is in the board folder. We tried our best to find somebody who doesn't work with cabs. We couldn't find anybody. And even our pool of underwriters, Piper Jaffray, as well as Stephen Youngberg, Raymond Jacobs, and RBC, they've all issued cabs. So
I think our specific concern was the people who were involved with our cabs. But your point is well taken.
Okay.
So Ms. Thondy, just as a follow-up, so you said Stiefel could get a lesser interest rate than the other underwriters, than Raymond James, Piper Jaffray, RBC. I mean, how do we know that ahead of time?
I think the analysis that Adam does is based on the expertise of Stiefel, and that they have a wider access to retail buyers of the bonds. We have to remember this is just a $15 million bond. It's not a big institutional bond that institutions would be interested in buying. So we are reaching out to the retail customer, and their base is a lot higher than Piper Jaffray would have.
Oh, by the way, the $15 million isn't listed on the green sheet.
It is around $15 million. It would be an amount not to exceed once we establish the...
Oh, I see it. No, I stand corrected. I see
and also once we establish these two main financial people, we will be able to come back with financial data.
I may be splitting hairs here, but do we have more questions before we launch into discussion?
Yeah, I guess, well, I have a question. This board.
I'm looking to Mr. Zane first.
Oh,
You can ask
sorry.
your second one. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you lowered your mic for that. My mistake. Go ahead, Ms. Beatty.
So in September, the board had concerns, as Mr. Sellers said, with regard to the vendors. In fact, it was reported in the newspaper with quotes with regard to vendors who had been involved with the cab. In fact, I had proposed an amendment to use Piper Jaffray, and that was voted down as well, that amended action item. So I guess my question is what's changed for my fellow board members? Because we didn't have originally there was going to be a workshop that never materialized. So
again, I suppose I'm splitting hairs here, but this is no longer a question and answer from Ms. Salandi. Perhaps we should entertain a motion and a second and then have our discussion at that time. So I'll hear a motion.
I think in the interest of moving this forward, I'll move to approve as recommended. I do appreciate the fact that this is written as it is and includes only 2 members, and the others, as was pointed out, are under 5-year contracts with the district as it is. I think that if there desires to be a conversation as to whether or not we continue using those other firms, and we're also awaiting the status of the legal work that we just talked about in the last item.
Let me give you a second, and then you can go ahead. Okay, go.
That's why I'm making the motion to approve. I'm sorry. Okay.
Second.
no, I think the second was Michelle.
Yeah. Okay. So now we can open this up to any discussion you would like.
Okay. I'll bring my question back.
Okay.
Then,
Ms. Beatty.
For my fellow board members who had last September voted against my compromise plan, how is this different? How has this changed for you?
Well, I'll say right now that these 2 firms listed are not firms that I had issue with. And I would speak to Mr. Sellers' earlier questions and points that although Stiefel acquired Stone & Youngberg, I don't believe that the board should hold Stiefel responsible for the actions of the firm that they bought. Stiefel's a different firm with different leadership, different checks and balances, presumably. While some of the personnel might remain the same, it seems well outside the purview of this board to direct a private business about who they can employ. I don't have a problem with Stiefel. I don't consider them part of our cab.
There's just a point of clarification on that. It is the same suite and the same office and the same Los Angeles location with the exact same officers, just to clarify that.
Any other comments?
Okay, so as I see it, then we have a couple of issues. One is the outstanding conflict of interest with Delinka. If that, so they're not on this resolution, which incidentally, this is the first time in my tenure that we haven't had all the consultants, the financial and legal consultants that that were listed from back in September. Our bond counsel, our special tax consultant, our financial advisor, our underwriter, our disclosure counsel, Zion National Bank. So are we to presume that everyone who was removed from this resolution is going to be used for this particular bond issuance?
Yes, Madam. Yes, Ms. Beatty, that is correct, because all these people that you just mentioned do have an ongoing contract with the district.
You have a choice.
I would remind, I believe, I don't want to remind, I think I recall that last time we talked about this, we were advised that June would be the proper time frame for potentially changing out these team members. the reason having something to do with setting ourselves up for liability from tax documents or something to that effect that require more extensive knowledge of our district, and changing the amount before tax period would be a big risk to take. I don't know. Does anyone else remember that discussion?
That is the recommendation that Adam had given to the board in September when he gave his comments, and he said, yes, I understand that you might be interested in doing an RFP for a CFD special taxes consultant, but being that all the tax rates have been set, I would recommend that we do that in the month of July.
Okay. Ms. Falande, when you were citing the job description of Delinka Group, there is this dual role of administrator and special tax consultant. The special tax consultant is on a per fee basis. The administrator, well, their contract was a 5-year contract. I think it has like 2 years left or something. I can't remember when the contract
no,
was
Ms. Beatty, it has more than 2 years. The Delinka Group, the 5-year contract is approved from January 1, 2014 to December 31, 2018. It was approved at the February 10th meeting of 2014. And as far as their fee, they have a flat fee amount, and it is $25,000 per CFD. That is how Delinka bills us. It is not a percentage of the bonds sold. It's a flat fee.
Because the board did, after that meeting, request the Delinka contract. And one thing that struck me, they do have a 30-day notice, incidentally, but one thing that struck me on the contract was there appeared to be, with regard to their special tax consultant role, there appeared to be duplicity with the financial advisory role, because the special tax consultant role also, they were being paid for things like recommending, issuing, or refunding bonds.
Well, since we did the RFP for the financial advisor, and we selected Adam and as possible backup Delinka, if you notice, we have not used Delinka Group as the financial advisor. We have relied heavily on Adam.
Right. No, I understand that, but we pay a separate cost for financial advisor and then a separate cost, the $25,000 per bond, which some of those appropriations from last year when we did those 3 refundings seem to be higher than the $25,000, just as an aside, but I'm just, we'd have to go back and take a look at that. But my point is that the role of the special tax consultant the special tax consultant has some of the exact same functions as the financial advisor, like advising the board to issue bonds at a certain time and how to structure them.
The financial advisors do not advise the district to issue bonds. It's the district that seeks wanting to issue bonds to maybe build schools or renovate schools and seek financial advice from them.
I believe the special tax consultant's role is to, because of his role as an administrator of the CFD, is to be able to advise the district when it's possible and when we have what we need to move forward. And the financial advisor, who doesn't know all of that information, his or her role, in this case his, is to serve the board and the district as, I'm going to give these people the best advice in the best interest of this district. Adam had nothing. First of all, I have to say this. I can't understand this issue about anybody who had anything to do with the cabs can never work for, we're blackballing them, and we're saying it's your fault. They did what the board told them to do. The board had a choice: raise taxes.
All right, I'm gonna cut this discussion right now. This item does not contemplate changes in current contracts. If we want to make those changes, they're going to require a separate agenda item at another time. It's been advised, the board's already been advised that July might be the time to switch out team members if we choose to do so. This current item, which has a motion and a second, only calls for us to determine Stiefel and McFarland. I believe your motion specified Stiefel over Piper Jaffray, correct?
I was fine leaving it.
Oh, or? Stiefel and McFarland. I believe your motion specified Stiefel over Piper Jaffray, correct?
I was fine leaving it.
Oh, or? Oh, and or. Okay, I'm sorry, as written. So I'd like to call the question unless anyone has a comment specifically on these two people in our, on this item. Well, I guess it's three, really.
Well, the item is about the bond issuance, and I do have other questions. Ms. Burgoyne?
Yes.
I'd like to invite you to speak.
No, wait.
No,
You can
I'm
ask
just
a
here to answer
question.
questions.
You can ask a question, and if Ms. Thalandi can't answer it, she can go to her staff person.
Right.
Go ahead and ask a question if you'd like, but I'm going to call this question shortly because I don't want to move on to things that aren't part of this resolution.
I just want to reiterate the reason that I'm opposing this is because I think that by approving the two people that we have to approve, we're tacitly approving the others who we have contracts with. And we were very clear 4 months ago in saying that we did not want anyone associated with our cabs, just a point of difference that the superintendent and I have, anyone associated with our cabs to work on future bond issuances. I think it was the board's belief that the public supported that position, and I think that it's very clear that Delinka Group meets that qualification.
And I guess then if no one else has any comment, I'll restate that, we've been advised that July would be the proper time frame for bringing out a new agenda item to change out our team members. I'm inclined to accept that expert opinion at this point, and I would hope that we can have a discussion in the months leading up to July to determine whether we'd like to do that, and what that agenda item might look like. I'll maybe take one more comment if there are any more.
Well, we've been discussing the financial consultants, but I want to get to the heart of the matter with regard to this action item, because it is approving the board giving approval to up to $15 million for CFD 15 IAC in order to reimburse Black Mountain Ranch, Standard Pacific. I had asked this question back in September on behalf of the consumers, the taxpayers, what are we paying for? And what I was provided with is a document from August 6, 2006, which is the Joint Community Facilities Agreement. And it's sort of the kitchen sink of what can be paid for, some of which is projects that have already been completed, like widening projects on the 56, and I'm assuming we're not doing anything on El Camino Real. So my question is, we haven't received any invoices. We just spoke previously about Best and Krieger's invoice that was our bill to pay. Where is our bill? What are we paying for?
Ms. Beatty, the board approved a joint community facilities
Ms.
agreement.
Burgoyne, I'm going to interrupt you and let Ms. Thalandi, I'm going to go by the book here.
Yeah.
Ms. Thalandi.
Well, Ms. Beatty, there was a list of projects that Mr. Bill Ostrom had already spent $111 million on, and that was included in the board package. We actually will not get an invoice from the developer, but he gave us a listing of the projects he has finished, and that is in the board folder.
But this exhibit that I'm looking at says facilities subject to reimbursement agreement filed August 6, 2006. So are you saying he did all these things and now we're on the hook for them, like Camino, let's see, Rancho Bernardo Road widening, Via de la Valle widening, West El Camino Real, community park, swimming pool. So he is, because this is for CFD 15 improvement area C.
Yes, Ms.
So
Beatty.
what are those community members in improvement area C of CFD 15 paying for?
I'm going to ask Ms. Burgoyne to respond, please.
Oh, Ms. Burgoyne, I
you.
get to recognize you now.
Thank you, President O'Connor Ratcliffe. Thank you. As we formed CFDs, and Ms. Beatty, you were part of it, part of the agreements were a joint community facilities agreement. In that agreement is a partnership with the City of San Diego, the developer, and the school district. That agreement says that the developer will be reimbursed for any of the what we call discrete components that the City of San Diego has approved. The developer then submits the invoices to the City of San Diego. The City of San Diego authorizes them. They send us a letter, and then we reimburse the developer. Most of the projects have already been completed. There is no requirement to give the district an itemization. That is the agreement with the City of San Diego. It's the City of San Diego's responsibility to go through those discrete components and determine what they're going to get repaid, what they're going to get reimbursed for, and what they're not going to get reimbursed for.
It's late, so I'm going to ask, can you just repeat that again about the interface with the City of San Diego?
We have a we have a JCFA, a Joint Community Facilities Agreement. That is an agreement, it's a three-party agreement. Every one of our CFDs that have improvement areas have that agreement. We also, if we have another public agency like Department of Transportation, the Fire Department, a Liebenhain, we create agreements. That agreement is to ensure that the developer is getting reimbursed a portion. What happens is the City of San Diego has an FBA agreement also. The $100 and some million in this project is just their most current invoices. They've spent $250 million prior to that in other CFDs. The process is they go through, they do the improvements because that was part of the phasing plan. In order for them to be able to build homes and pull permits, they have to commit to infrastructure. Infrastructure is roads, fire departments, libraries, they can do public swimming pools. There's a whole list of what they call discrete components. They come to an agreement. We then submit, what they do is they submit all their invoices to an engineer with the City of San Diego. That engineer goes through all of the invoices and checks them off. Yes, no, yes, no. They also compare that with their future benefit agreement that they have with the City of San Diego, because at some future time they may get additional money from taxes coming in from the city. When the city okays all of that information, they then send me a letter saying, we authorize you to submit a reimbursement check to Black Mountain Ranch in X amount of dollars. It cannot go, we can only reimburse them to the extent that we have money. So we've already given them $10 million from Improvement Area A. B, C, and D all have $15 million in them. As the city comes in and gives us authorization, we will then reimburse them.
This is a very good description, and perhaps we need a board workshop on this, but does that answer your questions for this item? I'm ready to call this question. I'm not sure that you couldn't have asked these beforehand to save us some time on this. These are not questions that have specifically to do with this item.
Oh, they absolutely do. This
Well, if you need a primer on CFDs and how what the money goes toward, that doesn't go specifically to this item.
Oh, yes, it does. This is about what this $15 million is paying for.
Does anyone else have questions on this item?
I still have a follow-up question, Madam President. So,
Ms. Beatty, you've been monopolizing the conversation on this. I just want to make sure that no one else has a question before you go again. Okay, you're up.
So this list, is this a list that of items where they've submitted, the city has submitted to you the invoice for these?
Ms. Beatty, that is a list in the Joint Community Facilities Agreement. That was what was agreed on when the district signed that document with the city and the developer. That is the list that they can go off of. That's how they get reimbursed. That was approved 4 years ago when we formed the CFD. It was in the document that the board received.
Yeah, I don't know if it's, okay, so one of them is the State Route 56 at I-5 interchange improvements. So is CFD 15, which is over here inland, they're responsible for
correct
interchange improvements
correct
at the I-5?
They're responsible for any potential impact that a developer has. Mr. Sellers could probably respond to it more detailed than I can.
No, I see your point.
Microphone.
Not being recorded.
You're not being recorded. Your microphone wasn't on, so.
Okay, so is there a way for us then, it seems like it's sort of a, three-way circus, so to speak, because the bills are being submitted to the city, but then we are responsible for paying the builder or the developer for reimbursing them for these invoices that they've submitted to the city.
That's correct.
That was the agreement that was signed when?
When we formed CFD 4 years ago. And the board approved
We
it.
don't get to decide, that was decided 4 years ago what the money would be spent for. And then the developer does the work, submits it to the city says, yep, this is right, go ahead and pay it. Well, we can't pay it if we don't sell some bonds.
Right. Now, I'm just looking for the checks and balances where we see, it would help if we saw the invoices. So we saw, we're approving 15 million, and that's actually, they've submitted that much in invoices that they're due to be reimbursed for.
That's correct, because that's what the agreement states. The district is not responsible for approving what those discrete components are. That is what the city's responsibility is, and that is what the agreement spells out.
That sounds fabulous, and with that, I'd like to call the question.
I just have
All
another
in
follow-up
favor?
question.
All in
This
favor?
I'm sorry, this is part of our due diligence, it's part of
Ms. Beatty,
transparency.
this
We
is
can't
part
ask
of
all
my
our
job as
questions.
president to call the question, and I have done so. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions? That's 3-2 with O'Connor, Ratcliffe, Zane, and Patapow voting aye, Sellers and Beatty voting no. Item passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
Item D601, approval of board member appointee to the Budget Review Advisory Committee. This lists Dr. Collins. I'll go to Dr. Collins. I'm happy to go to Mr. Sellers since he is our board appointee to this committee. Okay, Mr. Sellers.
One of the, I'm sorry, this is for the BRAC. One of our members of the BRAC, Anita Ta, had to resign from the board, and she was kind enough to submit her husband as a potential alternate, which is very wifely. And so we need to pick a replacement for her among all the people who have applied to the BRAC. I'm going to be supporting Mr. Todd just because I think that's a fair trade. But everyone is entitled to vote for anyone they want from the list of applications that has been provided to us by staff.
I would only note that that list also included all of our current members, so perhaps if you have a list, I have a list of all the people who are in that packet who aren't currently on the committee. Do you have that list?
My packet doesn't have any current members in it.
Oh, mine did.
Oh.
Oh, maybe I looked at, oh, whoops, today. Okay, that's the problem. I didn't see it. Any comments on this, or are we ready to go down the line and name our preferred appointee? And if we have a majority for one person, we can select that person. If not, we'll narrow the field. Does that sound like the good way to do it? All right. Let's see. Mr. Sellers.
Well, far be it from me to intervene in marital bliss. I'm going to support Andy Ta to replace his wife, Anita.
Ms. Beatty.
Andy Ta.
Mr. Patapow.
I'm a believer in domestic tranquility as well, and I see no reason why not to support Andy Ta.
Sounds good to me. I'll support Andy Ta as well. That's 4 votes for Andy Ta to replace his wife, Anita Ta, on the BRAC. Let's go with it. Sounds good.
I have one question of the chair. There is also a vacancy on the ETAC committee that is my preferential appointment, has stepped down, Frank Zhu. Would it be appropriate for me to publicly name that replacement as well? Do we have to defer that to a future meeting?
I believe we need to defer that since it's not on our agenda, but you're correct, and I think we have some discussion on the ETAC committee because we do have some members of that committee who have not been attending as well, so we may have several members to reappoint, but you are absolutely entitled to appoint someone to, yes,
So
replace Frank Zhu, yes.
Okay, so I would do that now or next month?
I think we have to do that next month because it's not agendized.
Okay.
I recall board member Patapow replaced Adalia without doing so at a board meeting.
Because it wasn't a board wide.
This is Mr. Sellers' appointee, so he can do that now.
Yeah.
I think you can make that announcement now.
That's right.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and replace Mr. Zhu and thank him for his time and contribution. He is serving on the BRAC, so we haven't lost him completely. So maybe it's better he only serve on one committee. I'm going to replace him with Chen Yang Ricard, R-I-C-K-A-R-D. First name Chen Yang, C-H-E-N-Y-A-N-G, R-I-C-K-A-R-D.
Mr. Sellers, I just ask that you forward that name to the chair of the committee so she can contact this new appointee about the next meeting. And
Yes, ma'am, I will do that.
okay, do you have her contact information so you can do that?
I think I've got them all.
Or you can give it to me and I'll do that, whichever you prefer.
I'll do
okay,
it.
Great. All right, we're in first read items. Item F, there are no first reading agenda items. Hooray. G 306. We have upgrade to local area and wide area networks. Ms. Thalandi.
Thank you, Madam President. This is a project that we are in the process of doing, and we wanted to give an informational item to the board. We have identified that we need to increase the bandwidth in our district because of the increased use of technology and the way that we are using technology now. Dr. Richard Newman and Don Kale are here in case the board has any questions. This is an informational item for the board.
Are there any questions? I know that I would just like to note I'm pleased to see that we, the district, could receive a 40% reimbursement on some aspects of the project. Make it a good application, please.
That's our intent.
All right. Any other questions? G307, enrollment report, number 4, 2015-16. Ms. Thalandi.
Thank you, Madam President. Our enrollment is continuing to hold strong. This is for the fourth month of the school. Our attendance rate is also doing well.
I'd like to say thank you for answering my question about what specifically we're doing to get that attendance rate up. That's yes to, sorry to Dr. Robertson, but yeah. Thank you for that information. I didn't know. I like it. Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Item H, new board member business. Anyone? And I'm flipping through my things because I had one thing. Oh, yes. I wanted to let you all know right now that I would like to schedule a special meeting, open session, very soon to discuss our master calendar, some board protocols and goals for 2016. We did this last year with when Ms. Beatty was president. I really think this is important in order to establish our expectations for the coming year. So expect an email on that soon. I think if we could get it done before our February meeting, that would be great. But let's get it going. That's all I have. If there are no other, Ms. Beatty.
Do you want to? What dates are you planning? Because I can already. I think we can.
Oh well.
Calendar. I mean, are you looking at during the week, on the weekends?
I'm willing to look at anything.
We don't have a lot of time between now and the next meeting since it's in 3 short weeks.
I can get an email out to you tomorrow unless everyone wants to break out their calendars right this moment.
There's this really cool online app. I think it's called Doodle. Some people might know of it. I think we should start using it. Doodle. It helps consolidate and find available times for all of our schedules instead of doing the multiple emails.
Wendy's agreeing.
Yeah.
I know this app. Okay. Expect a doodle invitation to this
yeah.
one.
If you're proficient in that, then,
Once you see it, once you go, it's
Yeah.
really super easy. So yeah.
okay.
I'm
Do you want
happy
to just send us information on it? and
You
we
bet.
can- Thank you.
Item I, correspondence, none. That leads us to agenda item K, adjournment. The next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held on Tuesday, February 9th, 2016 at 6 p.m. right here. See you there.